It's the same thing that happens when you call everyone a racist. What do you get? You get a Nick Fuentes. You get a guy who emerges who's got the balls to shit talk and have fun and say wild things that are very inappropriate and sometimes racist. I think so many of those people are like her, where they're just indoctrinated into this certain way of thinking and talking, and they just wouldn't even imagine saying there's genetic differences in the races because it's so Charles Murray, right? Problematic. You can get canceled for it.
What did you say?
There's like a big camp in North California where all these guys go and do these rituals, like world leaders go to do these rituals.
And I'm the first. Yeah, we snuck in and got it. But I mean, it just sounds crazy.
They have no security.
No, I snuck back to Secret Service and everybody.
Having a rough week, man. I've been hearing the M word too much from my girlfriend, you know what I'm talking about? She brings up marriage a little bit too much, and it's, I can't even hear that word. I hear the word marriage, my brain just shuts off. It's like, marriage, click! Every word after marriage is...
At the front of it, there's this big stone owl they brought from like Babylon. And they all, get these
Babylon.
robes. Yeah.
Like original Babylon.
Look, I know this all sounds like bullshit. But
Look, bro, I'm open. I empty myself. I listen. And who's there? George.
They all go. There's 2,000 elitists from all over the world. Heads of Hollywood, media, banking mainly, and Republicans. Arnold Schwarzenegger goes there.
What does the footage show, and how close up is it?
We're about 175 yards away, and
You zoom in on it?
No, because it's hidden in a little camera right here.
A lot of people don't like reality TV because they say it takes advantage of stupid people. Which is pretty true, but you know what? Fuck stupid people. What are you looking out for them for? Well, who likes stupid people? That's what evolution's all about.
We know that George Bush goes there.
Right.
They announced on CNN a few days later that George Bush has chosen Dick Cheney as his VP running mate from Bohemian Grove.
You should be happy when stupid people get ripped off. I don't like it when smart people get ripped off because I'm not very smart. I don't even really know how to fucking divide. These guys are ripping off accountants?
Now, there's a body that's burned.
Yes, they bring a bound body up.
But person's dead already.
You don't know if it's real. They claim it's an effigy.
The real hardcore vegans, they don't eat honey, and they love to say this. Well, you can, but I don't. Oh, thank you so much! I didn't know I could have honey! But I'm still below you though, right? Oh, you're better!
And they burn it, and they have screams of pain come out of these loudspeakers.
Who did you see that you can identify?
I saw people that I've seen on the news and things.
You know, it's one of those things that people do where they tell you they've read the book just to let you know that they read. You know? They always say the same thing. You're like, oh, Game of Thrones is the best show. You go, the book's even better. No, it's not. It's never better to not see something, you fuck.
I read that book by David Lipton. You read that book, Best Evidence? And I'm freaking the fuck out.
Because it all makes sense because you've seen stuff.
Well, not only does it make sense, but it
Yeah.
makes sense because this guy is not a conspiracy theorist. This guy was
Documentation.
clerk.
Yeah.
He was a clerk. He was an accountant. It's showing how the casket was empty. You know, how the autopsy was totally different from Dallas than it was in Bethesda. And his brain disappeared after the Zapruder film was released. Right?
Before COVID, I would have told you that vaccines are the most important invention in human history. After COVID, I'm like, I don't think we went to the moon. I think Michelle Obama's got a dick. I think Pizzagate is real. I think there's direct energy weapons in Antarctica.
Well, they actually are doing a fugitive show. They're going to make this guy look like a fake fugitive. They're going to have people call up.
That's part of training everybody to be petty enforcers. Little tattletales like Nazi Germany where 1 in 10 people was an informant.
But is it that, or is it simply entertainment? Because I know
People
one
like
of the
to
guys who puts that on.
You gotta treat it like it's the Iranian flag.
I don't know what that means.
It means that it'll kill you if you leave it on the ground.
Oh, okay.
But you think that this is all someone is making people do all these things to condition? Have you ever thought that possibly it's because these people are so fucking inept and bloodthirsty and psychotic? That's why they got into the military in the first place. That's why they got in the ATF in the first place. Do you think that those people are capable of making this massive conspiracy, or is it possibly just inept?
You know, There's something to be said about a conspiracy theorist who thinks the President of the United States isn't a member of a secret society that controls the world. But then, I don't think there's another conspiracy theorist like Joe Rogan, someone who is so certain that he exists outside of the system, while being worth nearly $200 million thanks to his deal with Spotify, having 20 million subscribers on YouTube, and having spent more than the last decade interviewing politicians and billionaires.
I'm just a simple seeker on a spirit quest to discover what doth life.
Part of the issue with tackling someone like Rogan is that since he's a comedian, you also have to outline what makes a joke funny, and immediately you're gonna run into trouble because if you say,
Not funny!
you're gonna be dismissed by the part of your audience that thinks you just don't get the joke, like a buzzkill spoilsport trans woke moralist.
Well, except Joe Rogan's not funny. I mean, he's not. Let's be real.
I could go into the structure of a good joke, the intention of a good joke, punching up versus punching down, but ultimately, I'm not interested in telling you why I think a joke is funny or not. I don't think there's a rigid structure or a taboo against finding humor in any subject. And yet, from the clips I've seen, I don't think Joe Rogan is funny. But I don't think it'd be fair to just judge him by the clips I've seen on social media, potentially out of context. So this time I actually spent 2 weeks watching him because he doesn't do one podcast a day. If you like these videos and want to see more of them, and earlier, you can join my Patreon. Also, I've got a merch store now. Capitalism, baby. Also, I've got a Discord, which you can join, if you want to be cool. Something I'm going to point out from the get-go is that the way Rogan shoots his podcast makes the cuts in conversation I'm making harder to spot. My goal is to communicate the full context of the conversation without needing to hear the entire thing, not to remix it into something new that I can criticize instead. If you're curious, you can use an excerpt of what Rogan or his guest is saying, and then search the YouTube transcript of the original podcast to hear the full conversation.
Let's fucking go.
Have we started? Are we going?
The dirtier this table is, the better.
We begin on a question about Rogan's studio decor.
That's from my friend John Reeves. He gave that to me. That's a mastodon tooth. Or woolly mammoth, or what's the difference?
Something he'll do at the beginning of every stream is use the podcast sponsor, Perplexity AI, to answer a relatively straightforward question.
Mammoths were taller, more slightly built grass eaters, while mastodons were shorter, stockier browsers that ate woody plants. Okay.
But the question I have is whether any of his guests find the giant neon sign right behind Rogan distracting while they talk.
Wrangel Island had the last woolly mammoths till about 4,000 years ago. Isn't that nuts?
That's nothing.
Another pillar of the show will be Rogan speculating about how or why something he's discussing happened, which will usually bounce back and forth between a perplexity search, his own recollection, and or whatever the, air quotes, popular narrative is.
Yeah, that's like before the pyramids were built. No, I mean after the pyramids were built. Allegedly. I think they were probably built earlier.
Oh, also his guest today is James McCann.
Man, there's a lot of beautiful mosques.
Just me staring, transfixed at the flag at the San Antonio Spurs game, surrounded by 18,000 morbidly obese Hispanics, just feeling that flag.
I don't want to go to the Tower of London. I want to see the beautiful towers on those magnificent mosques.
Chinese love saying this is China. Yep, sadly, they keep saying it in places that are not China. That joke was originally about Israel, but my manager asked me to make it about China for some reason. I don't know why. My manager, my accountant, my lawyer, my agent.
He's fine when he's telling other jokes.
I'm not allowed to talk about Israel.
I'm sorry, where were we?
He has some interesting things about seeds.
Oh, okay, thank you.
They can tell the difference between a wild plant and an agriculturally grown plant. So when you have a wild seed, it is more conducive to the growth of the plant if the seeds break off easier. But then when you use agriculture, the seeds don't become important for the creation of new plants because you're always taking the seeds anyway and planting the seeds. So you could tell by looking at the actual seeds themselves whether it's an agriculturally based seed or whether it's a wild seed.
That is good. I hadn't thought about that.
Somehow, after that innocuous fun fact, he switches gears into defending pseudo-historian Graham Hancock.
That part was cool. The shittiness is not cool, and calling Graham Hancock a racist.
Graham Hancock is an archaeologist whose main passion is appearing on podcasts talking about how an ancient civilization likely existed during the last ice age. His theories have been roundly disproven by experts in every location he explores, and he's called racist because the kind of pseudoscience he traffics in has a history going back to the 19th century of white people making up explanations for how advanced advanced civilizations could exist in areas of the world they believed were too primitive. Hancock's efforts, intentional or simply a downstream consequence of his conclusions, removes the actual nations and people who built the remains he looks at.
They do that with like everyone who has anything to say about the historical narrative that doesn't fit into exactly what they're teaching, but they keep getting fucked because over and over again they keep finding these new things that are older and older.
Yeah.
This conversation was posted on December 31st, meaning that not long before this was a mass shooting of Jewish people celebrating Hanukkah in Australia.
We had a run of people pretending to be retarded in Australia. People having like fireworks that they would fire into themselves, and everyone would like come out with cards and read their act.
That's what happens when you take away everyone's guns.
And now the response is, well, maybe we could take even more of them away.
So I'm just going to grab a stress ball and see how they handle this, starting with the nationality of the guy who wrestled a gun away from one of the shooters.
The big argument was over the religion of the hero. He runs at a guy with a gun and wrestles the gun off him, and he does let the guy get away. He doesn't want to kill him. He was just
beat
a
him
heroic
in the
man.
head with the butt, like in the movies.
I don't know what I mean. I wouldn't have ever run.
Rogan is a professional MMA fighter, so I don't know if this is a joke or if he's being serious.
Why didn't he shoot the guy in the foot?
Shooting someone in the foot is just as likely to do nothing as it is to kill someone rather than just incapacitate them. But at least they come to the right conclusion that, shooting someone is not an easy thing to do.
Blow his fucking
no
ankle
one can
off.
really do that. But who knows what to do when there's a live...
Yeah, you don't know what to do. That's a good person.
He is a national hero at the moment. Man, people wanted him to be a Maronite Christian so bad. The Groypers were desperate for him to be. There was a lot of people going, well, actually.
This is also an opportunity for Rogan to wax philosophically and flex his wokeness. But I'm sure that's not how he would describe it.
That's the real problem we have in this country. We want to pretend that people actually exist in groups.
Yeah.
Even if there's high percentages of people from groups that are doing bad things, there's still a giant percentage that are not. And to alienate all those people by just lumping it all in as one group together.
Okay, that's better than expected at least. And again, I'm kind of surprised because when McCann talks about the left-wing government of Australia looking to classify Islamic terrorism as right-wing, Rogan agrees with the classification.
So now they're trying to reclassify globalized intifada jihadism as a form of right-wing extremism, which I guess it's not commie lefty stuff.
Well,
but
you have to look at it on paper. Objectively, it is. Let's break down what is right-wing then. Do they want to completely control women's behavior, whether or not the woman can leave the house with certain clothes on, what they're allowed to do, total religious adherence, they want a religious state?
Yeah, but the Taliban want to dance with little boys. That seems like a left-wing thing.
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with the lore. Why does that seem like a left-wing thing? Oh, right, Pizzagate.
There's a lot of guys out there that are Muslim that are not banging boys. So when you connect them with the Taliban, they're like, hey, bro, I'm just praying over here.
We're walking here.
And once again, we veer off the path from the tolerable to the intolerant.
It's the same thing that happens when you call everyone a racist. What do? You get a Nick Fuentes.
I'm not sure that tracks.
You got a guy who emerges who's got the balls to shit talk and have fun and say wild things that are very inappropriate and sometimes racist.
That is an overly gentle way of putting it.
Hitler was based. We all know that.
The I like Hitler kid is sometimes racist. Gotcha.
Someone embraces that guy because you've been told you're a racist just for being white.
Okay, this is more of what I was expecting. There is no direct through line of someone being called racist and them deciding, actually, blacks are inferior and Jews run the world.
It's another form of racism. It's just an accepted form of racism that's really weird.
Like Nick Fuentes is getting all his other ideas through as well, because he was the only person saying things that the average person would think was kind of normal.
Well,
I've been thinking about this a lot,
but then he
Andrew Tate,
wasn't. A lot of the stuff he was saying that was not something the average person would think was
but
normal.
you sneak your other weird stuff through.
I'm really happy that McCann described that because we're about to see how Rogan does the exact same thing.
When he's getting attacked for going like, a black neighborhood is going to be more violent on average in America, you go, yes, I've traveled around the country and that is, I think there's a long history for why that's true.
Well, it's factually correct.
That seems to be correct.
The question is, though, why? And that's where it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The real reason for why is a host of factors. But the primary one is crime and poverty.
Have you ever had trouble arguing something so you use an analogy, but then you get hung up on a disagreement about the analogy and that ends up twisting itself into the original argument? You end up talking past each other because you don't know where the analogy stops and the original point starts in the other person's head. Everything Rogan is saying makes sense to the logic sensors in your brain, but the conclusion isn't, oh yeah, I guess it's okay to think black neighborhoods have more crime if you start from the position that it's not inherently about race. The conclusion is, oh yeah, I guess because I'm not thinking about it racially, it's okay to listen to Nick Fuentes.
When people are like, why do you have dogs? Why do you have guns? I was like, what? Like, do you watch the news?
Yeah.
Are you fucking crazy?
Wait, you watch the news?
Why?
And most of the time, it's not going to happen to you. The 99.99% of people will never experience anything awful. But to not have any idea that it could ever happen to you is bad.
After hearing this, I got curious and decided to skip forward in time to see what Rogan's reaction was to Alex Peretti getting murdered by ICE.
You need to understand that this isn't organic, regardless of how you feel. I don't feel like that guy should have been shot, but I understand what happened. If you know anything about concealed carry, if you are a concealed carry holder and you are carrying not just a pistol, but 2 full magazines as well, you do not ever physically engage with someone. Something massive has to be done to stop this like ancestral, like this lineage of people that are coming from these crime-ridden places.
Also, Rogan is doing a lot of work to avoid using the term systemic racism.
Like, treat that as if it's an untapped resource of human potential, because that's what it is. A giant percentage of who you are is dumb luck. And if the people that got the worst luck to be born in a crack house or be born in a place where there's gang violence on the street every day, what are you going to do?
These are nice thoughts, but it doesn't actually mean anything, because these thoughts aren't tied to any kind of ideological push for the change they're talking about. It's just a prayer for someone to do something. You could say it's thoughts and prayers.
But then when you try and do something like that in America, the pushback is huge. Like, I think
what is the pushback of investing into communities?
Well, I would say, like, in a small, like, I think the National Guard going into some places.
Okay, that's different. So that's
what it can look like sometimes. Like, there are
that's
definitely
what it can look like under
Portland.
this administration. But what you can't do is let it get to the point where it's feasible to call in the National Guard.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy.
At this point, you might say I'm being disingenuous because Rogan is saying he wants to help. Sure, he's saying he wants to do something, and he doesn't necessarily have to know what that thing would be. But did that desire translate into actually supporting someone who would do something? Because if it didn't, and it doesn't, then it's all just empty pondering.
It's like their law enforcement has been so handcuffed by the administrations, especially in the northwestern United States. They don't get enough sun. They lost their fucking mind. Everyone's depressed and everyone's trans. It's crazy up there.
And now we've got justification for calling in the National Guard in the guise of that desire to help and a misrepresentation of the levels of violence they were just talking about.
The mayor in D.C. thanked Trump.
Yeah.
She's like, this is like the safest it's ever been here.
In the statement Rogan's talking about, she specifically said that she was not thanking Trump for sending in the National Guard.
Look, but the problem is that sets a fucking precedent. So here's the thing. If it's necessary, let's say you have a place that's a literal, not even a real place, a fictional place in America. Dozens of people are getting shot every day, and it's basically a war zone.
The way Rogan presents this hypothetical isn't just a way to theorize on acceptable standards. It's a way to substitute an acceptable reality for the current one. There could be a reason, therefore there must be a reason here.
You would say, okay, it's probably a good idea to bring in the military and control that.
It's all just Republican talking points disguised as a broad conceptualization of what might be good or necessary. All the while, they don't have to talk in hypotheticals, they can just look it up, even if it's just with the AI that sponsors the show. But if they did that and it proves them wrong, then they've got to deal with the fact that they're supporting the real version that's outside their window, and not the hypothetical version that's in their heads.
When Jim Crow was happening in the South, the military got sent in, and people, you desegregated the South by force.
Crazy you have to bring in the military.
The military wasn't just sent in. Laws were passed that states refused to comply with, and so the National Guard was federalized to make them comply.
I mean, that Emmett Till, I just found out about that after I got here.
Emmett Till was a 14-year-old black child who was lynched in the 50s for allegedly whistling at a white woman. His murderers were found not guilty by an all-white jury. Side note, Ruby Bridges, the first black child to desegregate schools, is only 71. This stuff is still in living memory. I'm not going to say that they can't talk about it, and I don't think they present themselves as experts, but their confidence in the initial assertion of how racism in America functions is really undercut by this admission that McCann, at least, does not have a firm grasp on the history.
And they were still shooting the Emmett Till statue.
Sure, it wasn't just one KKK dude that ruined it.
It may have been one dude.
You get one wacky guy in a neighborhood, and you're like, that's a racist neighborhood. They were shooting the Emmett Till statue. Maybe it's one asshole works at the tire shop.
It's definitely not just one person, given that there were multiple people involved in a single incident. But then Rogan gets to how he doesn't trust mainstream news.
Not just
15, 20 years.
Boring is...
I would say lying as well. But people
completely compromised, totally untrustworthy, completely compromised. When people are like, why do you have dogs? Why do you have guns? I was like, what? Like, do you watch the news?
Yeah.
Are you fucking crazy? You can't proclaim yourself to be intellectual by only listening to one perspective and to being like very aggressive and hostile about the other perspective.
Well, that was a very poor choice of words on Rogan's part.
Allison from Florida is going to challenge you. Allison, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a primatologist. There's no such thing as a Bondo ape.
You're a fucking idiot. Go online and look it up. You're a what? What do you do? It's a new discovery. You're a primatologist? Well, look it up. You're not current. Pay attention. Go online and look it up.
Yeah, this is student.
Yeah, you've learned some shit from the college. When did you graduate?
I have a PhD from
When
2000.
did you graduate? When?
From 2000.
Yeah, when was the last time you got online and researched primates? Have you ever looked at any of the new discoveries? Have you looked at any of Carl Amon's work?
Yeah, I've been to Africa.
What are you laughing at? Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I'll tell you why you're laughing, because you don't have a point. So you're trying to, oh, you're ridiculous. I have a PhD.
Yeah. You're not having a real conversation. You're being a bitch. If you were good at it, you would want other people to have different opinions, and you'd want to hear those opinions and talk to those people.
They love Schultz at the New York Times.
Well, he goes over
they've
there.
They've picked him. Yes, they've picked him.
He goes in there and
we can
talks
work
to
with
them.
him.
Yeah, well, he's very smart.
Andrew Schultz is not a smart man.
And he's like, hold on, let's just talk real here.
Where he goes, the Jews. And everybody laughs because
he's a comedian.
He's allowed to be funny.
Nice save, Joe. Andrew Schultz isn't Jewish, despite what you might assume from his last name.
Like when Tim Dillon was
the
on
CNN one.
Yes.
I was going to say, that's why I moved my ring up.
Amazing.
Because she kept asking this. She didn't want it. They resisted releasing that as a long form thing.
Yes.
And you can see why, because she's asking the same question 3 or 4 times in a row to try and bait something.
And since you've brought up that Tim Dillon interview.
When I was listening to your interview with Steve Bannon, he was like, not exactly pitching you, but kind of trying to draft you into his project.
I don't know if he was recruiting me for his project, like he was like, and you're gonna, but I think he was basically saying, here's my worldview. And I had a lot of liberals call me after that and go, do I agree with Steve Bannon? Like, what the hell's going on?
Do you think he was honestly representing his views?
I mean, I'm not God and I'm not omniscient, so I can never understand what's going on inside someone's head.
He did run a website that had a tag for black crime.
What, the Breitbart website?
Yes.
I don't think everything on Breitbart is phenomenal, obviously.
I've never seen a party as out in the wilderness right now as a modern Democratic Party. They don't know how to deal with him. They don't understand his appeal. You said this brilliantly on another interview. They've never fully been interested in why he was popular. They're only getting interested now. And that was something brilliant that I thought was very interesting.
Remember, he's a Democrat. I'm a Democrat.
Right.
I come from a working class Irish Catholic Democratic family, Union family. He's a Democrat.
She keeps going, real, come on.
Yeah.
Real, just to get him, because he's a fun guy, and he wants to say something funny, and she's like baiting him to say something exaggerated.
But what can the legacy media do when the podcasters have garnered massive audiences for themselves?
Jon Stewart had the best response to this whole thing. But Joe Rogan has the biggest audience in the world. He has a bigger audience. He's like, well, go get a big audience.
Yeah.
Go get it. Like, it's not that fucking complicated. I don't have pyrotechnics. There's no CGI.
Sure, it's not complicated in the same way that lifting a car isn't complicated.
I think some of it is it's just like ivory tower mentality.
Okay, this bugs me. Rogan's podcast is one of the most popular in the world, and the exclusivity of spots on it, which are seen by millions of people as an opportunity that can moonshot your career in basically any field, is just as much of an ivory tower.
There is a sense in people who have got like a very big education is that most people are too stupid to have like an open and honest conversation with.
Well, they're also viewing the world in that they're protecting people from opinions they don't agree with.
And again, this makes it sound like Rogan lives in the uptight town that bans dancing until the rebellious teens fight back with the power of music.
Even though they listen to those opinions, it has no effect on their position. They keep the same position.
Yes.
But they're worried that people dumber than them. It's a very condescending thought process.
Rogan's talking about people who work in a profession that requires rigorous fact-checking, criticizing the fact that podcasters have carte blanche to say whatever they want without consequences if it doesn't lose them advertisers.
And not only that, and people that are dumber, which is most people, you're going to fall into the trap of what this person's saying that I don't agree with.
And the way he frames this makes it sound like they're trying to shield every individual person in the audience from what Rogan is saying when we're talking about millions of people. If you listen to Rogan and know how to separate the substantive points from the nonsensical, then cool. They're not trying to protect you. But can you really say that in an audience that big, there aren't going to be people who internalize the wrong message, and that more effort should be put into mitigating that harm?
And that the only way to get people to listen to you is to like spin lies. Like you can't just be honest.
Exactly.
Which is what I think the podcasting thing is. It's what it is.
If you're going to talk about honest conversation, don't jump to Donald Trump as your first example.
Maybe again. No questions beforehand, no prep, didn't pee, sat there for 3 hours. He's almost 80. Like, if he was wearing a diaper, respect. But the guy just fucking hung out for 3 hours. Does that mean I agree with everything he does? Fuck no.
What don't you agree with, Joe? Please provide examples.
Yes, whereas Kamala wouldn't do it.
Well,
she wouldn't do it.
She could have done it.
And if you're going to talk about honest conversations, don't say that Kamala Harris didn't want to talk to you when that's an easily proven lie. But this gives him an opportunity to shit on talk shows for not being as authentic as him.
It doesn't make any sense. Why does he have a desk? Is he writing?
They talk about how Trump made politics better?
That I remember watching politics, and there was some sense of like everything is very manufactured, and if you make a single mistake, oh my God. And Trump destroyed that with the Republicans.
And what happened to politics?
Like Bernie could do it, they just froze Bernie out.
Apparently, we're going to be relitigating the 2016 Democratic primary until the end of time. Bernie didn't get the nomination in 2016 because he lost the primary by over 3 million votes. He didn't get the nomination in 2020 because the party coalesced around Biden, who had much stronger support and got more votes. Also, isn't it weird that the Dems stealing the primary from Bernie is a talking point on the right and the far left?
Like Marjorie Taylor Greene. You could not have a person like that before Trump.
It would be a good thing if we didn't have Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's a conspiracy theorist, but that might be a positive to you.
Listen, it's a reality show now.
And that's bad.
I think that system turns you into a sociopath. And I think there's very few people, Tulsi Gabbard, my friend being one of them. I'd love her. She's amazing. She's a real person.
If your standard for crazy is Tulsi Gabbard, then that standard is busted.
I've hung out with her hours and hours and hours. That's who she is. She's cool as fuck, but she has horror stories.
Yeah.
Are any of those horror stories about Syria and what her friend Bashar al-Assad did to his people?
When you find out how these people are making hundreds of millions of dollars on $170,000 a year salary, and no one's batting an eye, that is kind of kooky.
Not everyone in Congress is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and the ones that are generally had that wealth before they went to Congress.
Now, you don't really know how much they're worth.
You do.
You'd have to get an audit, right? Because what you're hearing is a reporting of what they're worth.
Their financials are public record. That's why there's an entire system set up to just copy Nancy Pelosi's stock trading.
If you've been a congressperson for 2 years and now all of a sudden you're worth $3 million and you were in debt before you became a congressperson, that's suspicious.
If you're a new congressperson and you decided to buy a house in the DC area, your net worth is now in the millions.
You got to de-game the system. But the problem is there's so much profit in it, and they get to vote on whether or not they can still do this insider trading thing, right? Which is bananas.
Congress actually has strict rules about this, and the people who do it usually get caught because they aren't subtle about it.
There's never a time where it makes sense where one person is the head dude of 350 million people. That is nuts.
I mean, that's why we have Congress. And now we're back to gun violence.
But you also, I mean, as a country, you have a great tolerance, I think, compared to other like Western democracies for letting there be some chaos.
Yeah, because we have guns.
Like if you didn't have the virtue of going, some people are going to get shot and we're going to be okay with that.
That's not a virtue. That's a sickness.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, it was written into the Constitution because we were rebelling.
And it quickly escalates.
Is a tactical nuclear weapon defended under the Second Amendment?
You want to hear the scariest thing that I heard? This is a guy that was talking about the UAP program and the back engineering of flying saucers.
Yeah.
Does Joe Rogan believe in aliens? Because it really sounds like he does.
They use some sort of a gravity, some sort of a propulsion system that's unknown to modern science. And so what did the United States government try to do? They tried to use it as a method of delivering a nuclear bomb. Have a flying saucer with a nuke appear at the Kremlin.
Let's not dwell on that and just move the conversation from nuclear bombs to nuclear hegemony and whether the U.S. has been a good world leader.
If anyone else had discovered the nuclear weapon, that's it. You'd have global hegemony by one power.
We like to think of ourselves as being the best country in America, and that comes with responsibility. Being
Yeah.
the greatest superpower comes with responsibility. That's why people get real uncomfortable about like drone bombing statistics and shit like that. They get real uncomfortable because it makes you really question like what we do.
Yeah.
I will tell you that one person who isn't uncomfortable with drone statistics is Joe Rogan.
Did you know that like more than 80% of the people that die in drone bombings are civilians?
Every time someone tries to be nice about Obama, then they have to go, "Oh, were the drone bombings. He did drone bomb a lot of innocent people."
I know. They always have to do that.
Okay, but are you going to mention that Trump droned more people in 4 years than Obama droned in 8?
You know, listen, I think we found out through Obama most likely what you find out through anybody that gets through there that's not Trump is that they immediately co-opt you into the system.
Why do you think that Trump isn't part of the system? He was the Republican Party nominee. They backed him after January 6th. For all intents, he is the system.
Forget about all the narratives of him being related somehow to the Bushes. There's a lot of that.
I didn't know that.
Oh, there's like a whole conspiracy theory.
That's your line for conspiracy theories? Well, it's about Trump, so I guess that makes sense.
In terms of like the way America felt about America, though, it was good. Racism has obviously like stopped being an issue to get you to be the president of the United States. And it's not saying that racism doesn't exist, but we're doing better than we used to do.
God, I miss Obama. Something you're gonna see a lot of is that Rogan finds every distasteful thing Trump does very funny.
It never calls reporters piggy. He never he never makes mean tweets when his enemies die.
No, I mean, I saw it and I was like, oh, yeah, of course. He's mocking a dead man.
Well,
That's
that
what
guy
he's-
tried to jail him for, years. And this is not forgiving him for that. This is not
Rob Reiner
excusing
tried
him.
to jail.
Oh, my God. There's a video of him working with intelligence agents. He was working with James Clapper and who's the other guy?
Rob Reiner did an interview with John Brennan and James Clapper to talk about Russian interference in the 2016 election.
It's a gross thing to mock a man after he's dead. Mocking the fact that his enemy was obsessed with him.
Also,
and
I've had
that's
friends-
what led to his son going crazy and killing him.
It is wild that he's describing it as Rob Reiner getting killed because he had Trump derangement syndrome. And in talking about vague ideas of the electoral process, Rogan completely sidesteps the way Republicans have violated every norm he seems to support.
And as long as you keep it a fair game, if you don't do a good job and that person gets into power, you fucked up. So now your team has to regroup and rebuild and come back again in 4 years. And that's what it's supposed to be.
The only side that rejects the legitimacy of elections is the right, and that's because Trump will not accept that he lost any election. And now we come to another conspiracy theory that Rogan will not let go of.
But when you start trying to do things like moving all the illegals to specific states so that you get more congressional seats because of the census, and then you start giving them Social Security numbers and Medicaid and Medicare, and you start rigging the system because you want to like bring in more voters and you're spending, and this is what they did. This is undeniable at this point.
If Rogan knew anything about illegal immigration, he would understand that this idea is insane.
Fetterman was cop to it. He was like, yeah, that's how you do it. I saw him on your...
Fetterman did not cop to it.
You're talking about people letting people in order to get votes?
Well, it's not. There's not that level kinds. I don't think there's that level kinds of organization.
But there is an organization that's moving these people to swing states that have made their way to swing states. And then there's been calls for amnesty, allowing these people to have a pathway to citizenship and allow them to vote. Then you're providing them with all sorts of services like food stamps and housing. These people will be moved to swing states.
I'm not really sure if that's what's in play.
If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states,
You got to make it seem fair enough so that there's not a violent uprising.
Ah, great. Now he's doing Fedsurrection.
there's a bunch of people that were feds at the scene. They finally had to admit that. There's a bunch of people that called people to go into the Capitol to break in. And a bunch of them probably were feds. How many feds were on these chat groups? How many feds were on message boards? How many feds were trying to get the kookiest of the kooky riled up?
January 6th was not encouraged by the feds.
Why do the Democrats not go, we've contributed to making a system that, even if this is a totally legitimate group of people who really believe what they're doing by storming the Capitol, we've contributed to building a system that looks really fake to a lot of people.
The only person in 2020 who was calling the election rigged was Trump. He did it in the lead up, and he did it after he lost every court case where he had a chance to prove it. At the same time, he was conspiring to use fake slates of electors to steal the presidency in spite of the election results. They briefly touch on California and Gavin Newsom.
The reason why it's Trump is the real reason why California's failed is Trump. Once he gets into office, Trump will be out and he'll fix the whole country and say, guys, you had to trust me on the long plan.
California is the 4th largest economy in the world. Just because they can't build trains doesn't mean that they're struggling. And then they get to Rogan musing on how a sci-fi future is only a few years away.
I think what we're going to really be able to know within the next few years is whether or not you're telling the truth.
I don't
Have
want
you seen? Well, what they have right now is a wearable. These guys put it on, they think something, and then the other person hears it.
That's not how this technology works at all.
This is one of the worst things I've ever heard.
They get to talking about AI, and I think Rogan is pro-AI, but judging by his perspective on it, you would think that he was extremely anti-AI.
If you see the asteroid coming, you have to realize you're going to die.
All the arguments Rogan makes are the standard tech bro talking points that don't actually provide any substantial context on the benefits to a transition towards AI system management. And that tells me he doesn't actually understand what AI is beyond the most surface level talking points, despite how evangelical he is on top of being sponsored by an AI company. I don't think there's any way to look at what Rogan is saying and conclude that this is his personal unbiased opinion and not, much like AI, the regurgitated aesthetic of a position.
I don't think it's going to be as disastrous as everybody thinks. I think we'll figure it out, but I think it's going to be a massive upheaval. Our economic system, our life system, the way we interact.
I'm shocked that no one's blowing up the servers.
Well, they don't know what to do. Right? And it feels inevitable because it is. The power grabs that are going on all over the world where they're trying to lock people up for speech violations. In the UK, it's 12,000 people this year.
The UK was not arresting people in the thousands for speech violations.
You're going to benefit from a super intelligence that can rationally explain why this is no way to sustain a civilization. What do you think is like worst case scenario for AI? Like, what are you really genuinely scared of?
Man, it'd be a bunch of things. I don't want to just start with the porno, but certainly the porno spooks me out. The AI porno.
But that's already here.
I don't even want to know if Rogan's aware that Grok was mass producing CSAM on Twitter.
Who is showing me this? What is the intelligence behind this?
Well, it's a lie, right? That's part of it. But it's like a pretty damn good lie that you know it's going to get way better at lying. And it's going to be, within a year, you're not going to be able to tell it all. You're going to have no idea. There's so much that's fake. But it's the price that you pay for the advancement and the capabilities of doing things. I think there's still going to be a value that people want to go see a movie that someone made. Just like there's people out there that still going to see live shows. You can't recreate that with AI. But there's a lot of things you can, and that's just a fact. Elon is famously said, and I don't know what this even fucking means, but not only will people have universal basic income, it'll be actually universal high income.
It doesn't mean anything. Musk has overpromised on all of his products this way. He said we'd be on Mars in 10 years ago. From an extremely weird way of describing how they have kids.
You've bred, I'm breeding. But in general, the birth rate has collapsed.
Well,
the Japanese are worse than
the
anybody,
Japanese have it real bad. South Korea has it real bad too.
What's happened with the feminist movement there? And like heaps of women are swearing off of men.
And I want to be clear here. Joe Rogan is about 60 years old.
Do you know that was one girl that couldn't get fucked that started off for all the other girls?
She's very
she was a
charismatic,
hater.
though. She was
a hater. She's like, no, we're going to say no to all men.
They get into the topic of age differences in relationships.
He wins in a huge way. I don't give a fuck what he has to do. I don't care if he makes her the head of his charity, whatever. She's hot as fuck. Let's go. She's 24. How old is he?
I wonder how Rogan's wife feels about him saying this kind of stuff. And from there, the conversation shifts into chemical castration.
There was some references to Tesla, in quotes, destroying his manhood. Because he had gotten some sort of infatuation with a woman at one point in time.
That leads into medication and chemicals in food.
There's nothing wrong with that. Living on a farm, especially like a small individual farm, is probably a very harmonious way to live in nature.
I cannot stress enough that working on a farm fucking sucks ass.
Well, one of the things is the excessive use of glyphosate. Glyphosate is in a lot of different things. The other things, there's a bunch of different chemicals. There's a bunch of different chemicals that they put into modern bread. What was it? Bromine? Is that one of them? They've all made it's like creates all this intolerance. Like you get gut inflammation if you eat too much of it. The problem is industrial agriculture is kind of taken over in this country. It's the same thing that they've done to our governmental systems. Same thing. It's like money. Money gets in. These whores.
Yeah, you got. I mean,
whores.
There are people out there doing ads for things that are. It's nuts that they're getting away with it. Like people who do, like rich guys who are doing gambling commercials, and I don't mind gambling.
We do gambling commercials on this podcast.
And I may be open to doing it myself in the future.
That is a very telling 180. Rogan brings up that NBC once apparently tweeted that Oprah is their president during Trump's first term.
During the Trump administration, the first administration, where I think NBC tweeted, "This is our president," and they showed a photo of Oprah.
The only reason I think this is relevant is that Rogan says that comedy isn't an excuse for not being political.
Okay, so there was a joke, but it was still a political statement. Come on. Even if it was like in reference to the joke, you saying that in all caps.
Boy, I'm glad he got that out of the way. Rogan has the right idea about how to treat gay people, which he immediately undermines.
At some point in time, I think you have to like take into consideration like how long being gay was punished before people eventually just got to this realization. Like you meet enough gay people, you know enough gay people, you have a gay kid, whatever. You realize like some people are just gay. Well, one of the funny ones I had a bit about back in the day, I actually had a conversation with this guy. He's like, do you know that statistically speaking, more men get raped than women? I'm like, right. By other men.
Yeah.
They're a fucking idiot. I'm like, they're not getting raped by cheerleaders.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, because
most rape victims are men?
Yeah, when you take into account prison.
This is incredibly incorrect. 1 in 5 women will experience some form of sexual violence, whereas 1 in 71 men will, including prison. But that doesn't stop them from getting other prison facts wrong.
Any of this.
No.
It's just people going, this is making me uncomfortable. Please do not get angry at me.
And is it possible that someone would lie about that in order to gain access to the women's room? And that's true. That's a fact.
It is not.
But I think the numbers have collapsed in the last
Well, you know
5
when they
years.
collapsed? It coincided with Elon buying Twitter.
The world becoming more accepting of trans people is why more people came out as trans. The world becoming less accepting is why the numbers dropped. What they're talking about isn't a return to normalcy. It's a return to the closet.
If you wrote on Twitter that a male could never be a female, you'd be banned.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Megan Murphy.
Megan Murphy was banned from Twitter in 2019 because of multiple strikes against her for intentionally misgendering people on top of her broader statements about gender. The way he's framing it would make it seem like she was asking questions rather than denying the validity of people who are asking questions about themselves. For some reason, Rogan can immediately recall this from 7 years ago, but in that time, he has not done any work to find out whether his preconceptions are correct.
Because you should be able to talk about anything, and if you're wrong about that, like other people are going to correct you or have a better argument than you have, and that's how you figure out who's right and who's wrong.
Rogan is conflating a social media site using a popularity-based algorithm to push content with a rigorous evaluation of theory, which is not how we determine what reality is. By itself, Twitter making rules about hate speech the way he described it is the popular decision-making he's talking about, because that company looked at the consensus and then adjusted their guidelines.
And for the longest time, there was no talk of detransitioners being upset.
Yeah.
These things are actually chemical castration drugs they used to use on pedophiles. That's what these things are. Rapists and pedophiles used to be forced to take these drugs that you're now giving to prepubescent boys.
Yeah. Also, the new penises are...
Oh, God.
I don't want to be sent any more of those.
Bro, the new penises
Shane was
and
sending
the
new
new
penises
vaginas.
after talking to you. I've seen them.
Both of them are, it's genital mutilation.
Yeah.
And with a lot of them, that these people have these thoughts about being a girl or being a boy, turns out they're just gay.
The rate of regret for sexual reassignment surgery is lower than voluntary gender-affirming procedures for cisgender patients. And what you see in the people dissatisfied isn't regret for the procedure itself, it's the social stigma they receive.
Well, I certainly think it's been accelerated by various special interests, and I think some of them are foreign. There's real evidence that China and other countries have pushed on social media, like trans ideology. But LGBT issues are just one of the many things that they do that with. They do that with immigration. They do that with USAID. They try to disrupt our system by getting us to argue with each other.
Hilarious that in a conversation about exploitation of social media driving thought through memes, that they uncritically cite a meme to communicate their next thought, which is about right-wing thinking.
Renee DiResta did some research on that with the Internet Research Agency before the 2016 elections. And the funny thing, she saw like thousands and thousands of these memes. She's like, some of them are really funny. Like they're really funny made
who's
memes.
making these?
Yeah, who's making these? They're being made in Russia or somewhere.
I would say at least on the right, people are getting indoctrinated by like multiple different strange things. Like the actual agreement. You can have arguments and discussions about things, and people do. You've seen that like meme where it's like here's right-wing thought and it's all fucking over the place. And it's like here's the left-wing thing. It's like one dot.
And everything after that is Hitler.
They will not interrogate whether that perspective is also an indoctrination, despite the fact that they just mentioned a few minutes ago that foreign interests spread psyops as memes.
That's scary. because then you realize, even though it's crazy to have a president, at least the ideas you voted a president in. But if the president doesn't do anything and it's really a bunch of, like, as nutty as Trump is, at least you know he's doing it. Like, nobody else is going to put gold all over the White House. He's doing that. He did the auto pen thing. At the very least, it's him doing it.
You understand that's worse, right?
They completely lied. As much as you can hate him about a lot of things that Trump has done, you can't just let people get away with making a fake story about him colluding with Russia. Like, that's a fake story. The Steele dossier was literally, all that stuff was funded by the Clinton campaign. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Trump's relationship to Russia isn't fake. And then when they start talking about the Epstein files, they don't take it seriously at all.
The fuck up was that people have found out that the redactions weren't really redacted.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's a big mistake. Like, you can copy and paste and put it in another document and see the redactions.
Oh, like a Photoshop deal? Yeah. Like you could get the layers away?
Yeah.
Oh, whoopsies. That's what happens. You get fucking people working for the government that are dorks.
I'm glad Rogan finds the security breach for victims of sexual assault by men with large amounts of money so amusing.
It says the FBI has confirmed this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar is fake. Fake in all caps. Trump wrote that. The fake. He gets busted by the use of all caps. Fake letter.
I have seen on Twitter people complaining about like they're not meant to censor anything due to embarrassment. But when it's like Ghislaine Maxwell's boobs, they will censor it out. And people go, this has been illegally censored. You must, by the law of the United States, show me her boobs.
I need to see them areolas.
And if it wasn't obvious enough that Rogan has put no effort into actually researching Epstein.
It's
the weird thing is she's in jail for sex trafficking to who?
Epstein.
Right.
No, but was it for that?
Yeah. From him?
I think it was 16-year-olds in Florida, and it was directly to him.
Yeah, it seems like the more they dig into his past, the more it feels like he was part of some sort of intelligence agency.
Epstein's deal in that case was made by Alex Acosta, who Trump then made labor secretary. Rogan thinks there are energy weapons in Antarctica, but he can't put two and two together.
How about the fact that he just got a slap on the wrist during the first case when he caught a case, and then whoever it was the prosecutor or the judge, was told that he was intelligence.
But before we can spend too much time on that, we're back to castration.
I'm on the record saying that castrati should be brought back.
I think so. You're on the record?
Yeah. No, over and over again I said, if we're going to have trans people.
Make them sing. Then the boy would be plunged into a bath of milk or hot water to soften the necessary parts, at which point speed was of the essence. Cut the spermatic...
Oh, I'm okay.
If we're going to have all the trans kids, doesn't one of them go, I identify as a castrati?
Well, maybe they already went through with the other thing, and they're like, well, let's make the most of this. Let's make some lemonade.
Did I screw up and accidentally watch another week of Asmongold?
I hadn't thought about that.
Julian Assange, it used to be Democrats that defended him,
right?
But then he pissed off the Democrats because he leaked on the DNC,
right,
and he showed, what was going on with Hillary behind the scenes and how the primary was basically rigged against Bernie Sanders. And Trump used to like him when he said, when he was getting this information on Hillary, but they hate him as well because Trump has basically been convinced by the people around him in the White House that this guy is dangerous because this guy basically exposed U.S. war crimes.
What's really bizarre about this is how no one speaks out against it. No one on the right, no one on the left.
When Obama is doing drone strikes and killing 90% innocent people, unfortunately, partisan Democrats don't talk about it. Now that Trump has increased drone strikes by 432% over Obama, now, maybe some Democrats will talk about it, but Republicans certainly don't talk about it.
And Obama was a radical acceleration of the Bush administration's drone policy.
That's right. People get mad now that, Trump is at the helm of this stuff, but all of these things now, it's precedent. He's not doing anything that wasn't established beforehand.
Can I ask you this, though? When you say Trump is doing it, who is exactly making the call? Does he have to sign off on each individual attack?
That's a great question, and the short answer is I don't know. But I also do think that there is this, what you can call the deep state. I know people think that's like a conspiratorial term, but it's really not.
It's John Lilly, Awareness Day. He invented the isolation goon tank.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You go in there and goon. It's like you're in space, dude.
I don't know who John Lilly is, but the way they talk about him, I don't think I want to know.
John Lee's like, hey, do you want to watch my parents fucking to conceive me? I like to do that in this thing. And what do they call that Buddhist thing where you go and watch your parents fuck?
Day 2's guest is Kurt Metzger, a former writer of Inside Amy Schumer, and all-around person you do not want to get stuck sitting next to on the bus.
Why the fuck are Indians and Sri Lankans tweeting about Israel-Palestine shit, right? Well, It's because there's these bounties they put up.
Metzger's got some ideas about how people post on social media.
So a bunch of people that I would watch them just like flip and say a thing like it's their job to say it. It was their job, but they're trying to hit a certain amount of engagement, and then you get like 50 grand. I can't remember the name of the guy that pointed out, but it's really good fucking work.
The reason he won't specify them by name is because his source on this is Ryan Mehta, an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist. Oh, he's saying the same thing that Hassan said.
I have 2 quick videos here from Ryan Mehta, who I tried to get on the show today, but he is busy.
So I want to explain how the pay-to-play game works here in the influencer world.
Me assuming someone either is blackmailed or MK Ultra is me being kind of positive, because really a lot of these people are just sacks of shit that are going for a bounty.
And it works both ways, I'm sure.
How long will it take for this to lead back to Israel?
From all around,
that crime that got done in Gaza, and they're done now, so everybody can relax. They got it done, yeah. Watch Norman Finkelstein, he'll explain it to you.
Norman Finkelstein is not someone you should be using as a source for Israel-Palestine information. If for no other reason, then you'll be waiting all day for him to actually give you any of it.
Now, some people accuse me of speaking very slowly, and they're advised on YouTube to turn up the speed 2 to 3 times whenever I'm on.
It does not take them very long to get into the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories.
The reason that the frantic buying up of the media by Larry, the shadow president Larry Ellison, is because they lost the next generation of trauma-controlled fucking mind slaves, because on TikTok, these psychopaths bragged about crimes they did to people. And all the young Zoomies are on there, including in America, where we were force-fed woke bullshit by the oligarchs who are now suddenly horrified because they didn't think it would blow back, that their kids would absorb that crap. Guess who has not had woke programming for the last 12 years? Israel. So you can tell who's involved with the propaganda now, because they have no concept of the sensitivities of these gender blobs that were made in this country.
Oh, hey, help! You gotta get me out of here, man. This guy's a freaking nut job.
I'm trying to stay out of most of this stuff, because every time I talk to you, I get dragged in, and I get paranoid and anxiety.
Oh, yeah, no, you could be killed. I mean, you saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. Jimmy got his phone hacked with Pegasus that time.
Yeah.
He got the Bohemian Grove thing is hilarious.
Oh, hey, Bohemian Grove, that thing Alex Jones was talking about in the beginning.
Nobody laughed.
Let's play the recording of Nixon saying it.
So, Bohemian Grove. If you're lost, that's probably better. But Rogan's about to repeat a quote from Richard Nixon about it that includes a not great word.
That quote, it's the most faggy goddamn thing you could ever imagine.
I don't think he just means a little bit of man-on-man action. I think he's talking about the ceremonies and the dress up.
So Alex Jones and John Ronson sneak into Bohemian Grove. Alex Jones filmed them. Everybody was like, he's crazy. He's a kook. He's filming them doing this fucking wacky ceremony in front of Molech, the owl god.
No, well, it's not Molech.
It isn't?
No.
What is the owl? It's a symbol of Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom, representing the club's values. That's what they say.
Yeah, the club's values are...
Shut up with that.
Whenever they say wisdom, that means magic shit.
Listen, if you're interested in this stuff as a hobby, that's fine. But if this comes up in a conversation about politicians, that is a flag so red it's Soviet.
They're wearing robes, they're chanting, and they're carrying a bundle of sticks that's supposed to like represent a body or something like that.
And then they're going to talk...
burning an effigy. The whole thing is fucking bizarre. Well, like, what the fuck is wrong with you
What
people?
if you have to make a decision to be a fucking mass murderer on the order of any mass murder they told you is bad, and so you need to cremate your care?
Or you want to sell natural gas and get that pipeline opened up.
Yeah, and I want to burn my dull care about the bad things I'm doing away, because I can't not do it. I'll be killed. So
also, you want to be compromised, because that's how you do business.
It's all just a conspiracy that rich people rule the world through needlessly convoluted rituals instead of just, like, conference calls. Saying that the Bohemian Club is about doing magic rituals for rich people to get into higher social and political circles is akin to saying fraternity hazing is about worshipping the god of Smirnoff.
I always feel like they're smearing dolphins, like how we did to a great man, Saddam Hussein. Remember we smeared that guy and he was the best president of Iraq they've ever had?
Well, what about Gaddafi?
I don't even want to bring that one up because that's really depressing.
What do I even say to this? Like, seriously, who among my audience isn't aware that these guys were monsters?
Authoritarian.
Well, that too. But so are we.
Yeah, no
Shut the fuck
shit.
up. Shut the fuck up. It's all pretend.
Horseshoe theory remains undefeated.
Well, I hate to bring it up, but ISIS is in charge of Syria now.
ISIS is not in charge of Syria.
Oh, we're bombing Venezuela too, by the way. It's
just hey, dude. No disinformation. Drone bombing.
Right.
Is it true that there was a stand down on October 7th?
The IDF people were talking about the day out.
There was not a stand-down order on October 7th. The vulnerability Hamas was able to exploit was Israeli focus on the West Bank to the detriment of security around Gaza. When the conversation turns to comedy, Metzger can't even be normal about that.
Don't you think comedy is kind of a hypnosis?
Yeah,
Like,
it's domain projection.
領域展開無料空所
Well, NLP, you know what NLP is?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
If you look on Wikipedia, it says it's a pseudoscience.
Is it?
Well, no. If it is, why does everybody use it nonstop all the time?
It is. Metzger is crazy.
Why would they be using it on me all day long, and every time I turn on something and I go, and I hear some fucking catchphrase that I hate?
Apparently, kindergarten is used to get kids to be more pliable for military service.
I always like to bring up public school, kindergarten, because 70% of guys didn't want to pull the trigger in battle, and that had to be fixed with the Prussian system, which is why it's called kindergarten, the Austrian, Prussian word.
Mm-hmm.
To get you away from mommy at age 5 instead of age 6.
And they could teach you about war. Indoctrination of children is a real thing. That's why when people scoff at it being used for like trans indoctrination, like why would anybody do that? Like, stop.
And modern art was an invention of the CIA.
Rothko and all the modern art, the American abstract modern art was launched by the CIA through a cutout.
Yeah. That's right.
That's public record. You don't think they got involved with all the arts?
Well, they definitely got involved in that because the Soviet art was so valuable. Soviet art was more skillful, which when you look at the Jackson Pollock artwork that's worth fucking millions of dollars, no disrespect to anybody who's a fan, but shut the fuck up. Like, just shut up. Just shut the fuck up. It's splatter.
Jackson Pollock was a self-described anarchist. It is so revealing that Rogan would admit that he doesn't understand why people would like Jackson Pollock this way.
I looked up all the wealthiest people in the world last night. I looked up the wealthiest women in the world. It's all inheritance. The top ones are, it's all like these families.
Well, they're not going to tell you who's a trillionaire, right? They're going to pretend we don't have those. No, they don't.
Probably mock Elon Musk's wealth.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, every time somebody goes, he's the richest man in the world, I go, do you think you get to know who that is?
Yes, because you can't hide that much money. And I'm not dignifying all of this with fact checks. Instead, I'm just going to give you a run through of the greatest hits and, unrelated, some of my favorite Macho Man Randy Savage clips. Rogan listened to another conspiracy theorist podcaster who had on someone who said there are energy weapons in Antarctica.
It's a neutrino detector that's also a direct energy weapon that can make
Okay, so Ice Cube,
earthquakes.
he started saying you could use neutrinos for all kinds of shit like FTL communications.
It's been so fast you can't even talk about it.
Weather weapons.
There's a treaty to not use weather weapons from 75. Why? Because they had those. You don't make a treaty unless you have those weapons. There's no nuclear treaty before nukes, right?
Right. Yeah, good point.
The mega power. Yeah.
Cloud seeding, a process that does not add water to clouds not already in the atmosphere, caused floods in the United Arab Emirates, and not climate change.
Blaming it on climate change when they are 100% making it rain there all the time is bananas.
Look straight up, because I'm right on top of you.
And from that conspiracy, we go to the classic one, chemtrails.
Do you remember chemtrails? The thing that was stupid people thought was a real thing, but it was a conspiracy.
Right.
Well, it turns out that was real, and it's called geoengineering.
Look, if you think chemtrails are real, I hope your kids will speak with you again one day.
Because I think they probably are spraying some things with some planes.
You got to get in your grandstanding and your hot dogging, don't you? Yeah.
He thinks that Maduro is/was popular in Venezuela.
They've been claiming Venezuela has fake elections. So when you tell somebody their president's an authoritarian, get your booster. Fucking fuck you.
But the cream will rise to the top.
Israel made the United States invade Iraq.
The reason we went there is a thing called the Greater Israel Project.
You are like a grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. Yeah, and I am the entire desert.
A bunch of anti-vax conspiracy theories, including about ivermectin.
And I love to bring up that for some reason you, not a doctor, all the other morons that said a thing were all wrong, including the people that should know better, like experts. And you were right and not them.
On balance, balance, off balance, doesn't matter. I'm better than you are, yeah.
Apparently, doctors recommend a lower amount of daily vitamin D than you'd actually need.
They've been recommending 10 times less than what you should have in vitamin D, which, by the way, would fight off a lot of these things that you're supposed to get shots for.
Oh, a shit ton.
You made a lot of promises to the macho man, didn't you? Promises that you didn't keep.
Carbon dioxide is good for the environment, actually.
How did I forget for 20 years that
sunlight,
CO2 does indeed make trees, plants grow?
Yeah, there's more greenery right now than there was 100 years ago.
That's right. I own all the seeds. And oh, right, I bought the farms. And I control the food growth.
Absolutely total control right there.
The Stranger Things kids look weird.
I mean, those kids grew into some bizarre-looking people.
Trump is innocent of wrongdoing with Epstein.
What a joke, dude. What a fucking joke.
Once we know that the Trump administration isn't getting to the bottom of it, no one is.
You just couldn't stand to sit back with your feet up and watch the champion in action. Well, look at this, prima donna.
Oh my god, I just noticed the hat is making Metzger's headphones fit wrong.
Amount of unresolved, insane things that, for some reason, you're not supposed to put them together into a bigger picture.
Mary, Mother of God. Was I crazy?
The entirety of the conversation they have is Metzger putting up these wild theories and Rogan just going along with it. Anytime he questions something, it's always with the caveat, I believe you, but I would like to understand why you're saying it.
But where you know you're dealing with fucking lizard people, metaphorically, but maybe real. And you don't get to know, by the way, who like the real powers are. We're like a Raj state like India. The world, I mean. You know what I mean?
Right. So if that's the case, and we both agree that's the case.
Hulk Hogan, not only are you a hot dog, a grandstander, a showboat, and a prima donna, but you're a liar too.
What does this even mean?
I think so many of those people are like her, where they're just indoctrinated into this certain way of thinking and talking, and they just wouldn't even imagine saying there's genetic differences in the races because it's so Charles Murray, right? It's so problematic. You can get canceled for it.
Yeah, I'm reading yesterday's newspaper.
COVID was a bioweapon to cull the elderly.
Oh, COVID came along. I bet every country was involved in their own soft kill to ease their population. That's what I think happened. Because I know the one that hit us wasn't from Wuhan, it was from Raleigh.
You guys got a conversation going. We're talking back
about
and
a few
forth.
Things.
It's like the most important man in the world standing here.
I don't even know.
You remember in MIB the blinky light thing that makes you forget that you saw aliens?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I have a very bad feeling, Joe, that is not some kind of exotic technology. I think it may literally just be a blinky light.
Really?
So he went against Diageo, which is a British company. It's not Italian, some made-up name. He bit the hand that fed him because he didn't own fucking Ciroc.
Right.
I think the Illuminati is like Ciroc. I think it was a bigger thing at one time, but now it's mostly for black people.
I am tired of Earth. These people. I'm tired of being caught in the tangle of their lives.
Let me put it this way. If you ever wonder what was inside of Mount Shasta, it ain't the Lemurians. Put it that way.
I don't know what you just said.
Michelle Obama, when she was First Lady, she had multiple stories that she would tell about, as First Lady, being discriminated against because of her race, allegedly. And one of them was she was in line for ice cream or something, and someone cut in front of her. This very dramatic story about, well, they didn't see her because she's black. Lady, people have cut in front of all of us. It's just that if it happens to me at Walmart, I don't think of it racially. I just think, oh, this person's an asshole.
Exactly. That's like looking for racism everywhere. But it's interesting that nobody wants to call that out. Nobody wants to be reasonable. You know, you have to listen to it. That's part of the problem. Like, you can't say, are you sure that's racist? Because then you're a racist apologist.
It drives me nuts that this is what we do now, where if someone does something or says something, they don't get to have a say in the intentions behind their own actions. There's only one person who can answer whether you're a racist person, and that's you. If you don't think that you're racist, then you aren't. Racism is a thought process. And if it's not in your head, then you're not racist. You might have stereotypical views about people of other races. Everybody does to some extent. You might think things that are even insulting about people of other races, but it's not racist, because racist means you hate people of other races or you think they're inferior to you.
Right.
But you could be not a racist person and think that, whatever, Asians are bad drivers. You know, you could think that stereotype is true.
America's present need is not heroic, but healing. Not nostrums, but normalcy. Not revolution, but restoration. Not agitation, but adjustment. Not surgery, but serenity.
The short-term stuff does work, you know, like short attention span stuff is very popular, even with me. Like, but I have been resisting it more and more lately. I'm like a fucking heroin addict. Humans didn't change. It's just you can hijack the reward system by giving them some short attention span nonsense, and it just like tricks their slow drip dopamine into like continuing to watch this stupid shit.
If you haven't already figured it out from watching, there's a difference between being aware of something and recognizing how it can have an effect on you.
It's bad for you, too, because it programs you to think that that is going on everywhere in the world. Like, if you have 8 billion people that are interacting with people all over the world, and you only take the worst examples of that and broadcast it, and then it becomes viral and millions of people think, it rewires your way you think about human beings.
Today's guest is Bradley Cooper, here to promote his new movie, Is This Thing On?
Thanks, man. It's one of the best representations of someone attempting to do stand-up. You really nailed a beginner in comedy. Like, it seemed completely realistic.
Great.
Yeah. And, like, I think that's one of the reasons why Kill Tony is so popular.
Yes.
Kill Tony, if you're unaware, is a show hosted by Tony Hinchcliffe.
And these Latinos, they love making babies, too. Just know that. They come inside, just like they did to our country. There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Where aspiring comedians can get 60 seconds to perform a set and then listen to critique, which from what I've seen of it is less constructive criticism and more bullying, which is evident from the kind of jokes people bring to impress Tony.
I just moved into my new apartment. I got a George Foreman grill, but I'm a little cheap, so I got a knockoff version. I got the George Floydman grill. It's sort of like the George Foreman grill, but you got to press down extra hard to get the grill marks.
Maybe other episodes are different, but based on...
Just like they did to our country.
I'm inclined to think not.
There was people that went up at Madison Square Garden in front of 16,000 people that had never done stand-up before.
Dude. No, that's...
Don't do that!
Yes.
It's immediately apparent hearing how Cooper talks about art that he has a genuine, empathetic passion for performance.
But it's wonderful to watch because you're watching authentic reactions happening in real time.
Yes. It's just that I think human beings really love seeing what it's like when someone starts out doing something. But it's just the getting going and sucking at something in the beginning is terrifying for people. So when they see someone just try it, I think they're like, oh, look at him go. Look at him go. He's out there doing it. Right. He's on the bike.
You got to press down extra hard to get the grill marks.
But because they're on career aspirations now, they get into Rogan's own journey through stand-up in New York and LA.
People would psychologically backstab people. People would talk shit to people before they went on stage. Wow. They would try to hijack their fucking mind right before they, like, really, it was dark. And then the internet, instead of people being your competitors, they became not just your friends and not just your colleagues, but also an asset. Because if you're doing a podcast and you've got your funny friends on, then your podcast is better.
Right.
And then if you tell people about their podcast, then their podcast is better. And then it became much more about being supportive of each other. And then everybody kind of realized, like, hey, it's way more fun when we're all having fun.
And everybody wants to be with other people. Who wants to be a lone wolf, really, for a long period of time?
Yeah. There's a few out there, but they're all psychologically destroyed. They're just a mess.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to have friends? It's crazy.
I'll fully cop to the idea that I could be reading too much into things here, but it's boldface 300 size font.
I got ridiculously lucky. Like, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I work really hard to get on a sitcom. Nope. No, I got lucky.
Rogan talks about how he basically won the lottery on his success being discovered early and getting dropped into multiple opportunities.
And then I got a development deal to do something for NBC. As we were developing it, they said, hey, there's a show that we're doing. It's called News Radio. It's already been picked up. We already did the pilot, and we want you to read for this. I was like, this is good. I'm going to get money, and I don't have to worry about money. That's how I thought about it.
Right.
And then when I was doing it, I was like, wow, I'm so lucky. Like, how did I stumble on? I'm here with Phil Hartman. This is crazy.
It's crazy.
And I will say this, through the conversation, I can see that Rogan, at least at one point, had a genuine appreciation for the craft of comedy.
And I don't remember what time the show started, but there was a few people on before me, and I got there, and the people that were on before me were sitting at the bar. I go, what's going on? They're like, there's no crowd. I'm like, there's no crowd? There's nobody? And so then this couple walked up. It's like when you're doing stand-up for just two people.
You're only looking at two people.
But you also realize how much of your act is bullshit. Fucking dance moves. It's just nonsense. Like, you're doing a lot of silly things that, like, don't even, and you're not connecting with real humans.
Right.
And you recognize where the flaws in your writing are and the flaws in your delivery.
Because if the only comedy he's seeing now is the stuff at his own club in Austin.
I watch a lot of comics, like when I see
Live,
them at the club.
right?
Yeah.
But not like.
No, I probably should. I probably should watch more of them.
He's only seeing what he already likes. This part's just for me. Bradley gets into talking about the fake baby from American Sniper.
What was it like doing that scene with the fake baby?
Oh,
was that
bro,
weird?
It's so funny. I was just talking about that 2 days ago, dude. And you know, I've come full circle.
Yeah?
I actually think it's dope. Wow, look at these people fully invested, and it's a doll. and I have the doll, and I remember, and I made a joke on set, and I was like, I just saved you $35,000 because I moved his hand with my thumb, and I was like, Clint, I just think that it's clear, you know, that that's not a baby, and could we at least just find out what the cost would be? And then I remember he was like, I think we move on.
But now we get to the meat of today's episode. I think Metzger revealed Rogan's mindset, but Cooper revealed his soul. This is Rogan's opportunity to geek out about comedy and art and passion, and for all his enthusiasm, he is incapable of matching Cooper's depth.
Huge foundation of like what I could do, you know, that your insecurities are actually your attributes, you're a sensitive kid. This is all good stuff. And I never felt that way before about any of that. And then all of a sudden in grad school with other guys and women, and we're like laying down, and she wants us to go through an experience of loss and betrayal when we were children. And it's like, what the fuck? And actually I could take all that stuff I've been ashamed of, and I could use it and bring it into art. I don't know, it really clicked with me. Any way you can how can I just get to a place where we're just talking to each other and I don't, you know, and then all this stuff I feel it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're doing a guy like Chris, it must also be kind of easier to keep the accent.
And unfortunately, here is where Cooper shows how Rogan is a pipeline to the right.
You know, like 8 months ago, I know I'm late to the game, came across podcasts. Yes.
Only 8 months ago?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah.
What made you get into that?
I can't remember, but it was your podcast, and I'm trying to think what it was. And then you had two guys on that I thought were really interesting, and then they do a trigonometry.
Yeah, trigonometry.
And I find that very fascinating.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah, great. And so,
I really hope in 5 years Bradley Cooper is still sane.
so that's how it just started. So now it's like a huge part of, like, I have this whole little thing, like often I'll go to bed and my daughter's listening to your voice, but I do put on headphones sometimes because I love, like, just at the end of the day.
I'm not calling Cooper a bad parent here, but if you've heard what Rogan has been talking about, you shouldn't let your kids listen to him.
Like, yeah, you're saying the lines you're supposed to say, but what's happening is, like, you really are there. You really believe it. And that, if you don't believe it, the audience doesn't believe it. Like him and Denzel in Training Day.
Yeah.
Like that, there's a few scenes where you're like, okay, this is really, this
especially
is happening.
in the car.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
dude.
the one.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
This is really happening.
Yes.
Like, this is real.
It really seems like Rogan can only see art through the lens of his own actualization. If he doesn't get it, then it's not his perspective, it's just that the art isn't real. This moment is why I said Rogan might appreciate the craft of stand-up, because he doesn't really seem to get the drive of it. Rogan doesn't know how to keep up except to repeat back what he's hearing.
It's like how many comedians who just want to be famous are going to... I don't even know how you could do it. You have to love it.
Right.
It's just too hard. That's not enough of a fuel. Because if you don't love it, I think you would find it monotonous and maybe boring and tedious and inconsequential.
You're going on a road trip with an eighth of a tank of gas. If you want to be great at something, you have to love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not even that you want... Yes, you want to be great at it, but you just love doing it.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
It's
And
just-
the
you just-
love is how it becomes great.
And then
There are conversations Rogan has gone through this week where he knows how to substantively add something, even if the conversation itself is total nonsense. This is someone fundamentally not understanding someone's passion when it's emotive, rather than as something being described anecdotally, which I think is why it keeps coming back to anecdotes.
like I was thinking about when you said, like, what is that thing when it's hypnosis? The key to that is willing to fail. That's what I learned as an actor. Is like, oh yeah, just don't take it too seriously.
I was just having the conversation, Brian Callen, our mutual friend, he texted me last night. He's like, I got a new bit and I just ate a dick. I have to go up on stage with it tonight. It's fucking terrible. But I know there's something there. It's like, you've got to be willing to bomb. You could talk about getting your dick sucked. You could talk about something. People will laugh. And you're like, I think there's something here.
The point I'm trying to make here is that the main thesis of their whole conversation is how to be authentic. And where Cooper is making all of these points about the humanity of it, Rogan is focused on the artifice. One is trying to figure out how to create truth, and the other is trying to figure out why he believes a lie.
Put out a special, and then once you put out a special, you start from scratch, and then you're fucking terrified. Because now you're a famous comedian with no material, or terrible material, and you have to figure out a way to make it good.
Because Rogan has talked about the way he needs to work on bits or that he was lucky, but it never actually gets at the vulnerability of his own failure the way that Cooper is talking about. The exposure that comes with being seen by an audience in a state of weakness. And I think that's why he doesn't like to be proven wrong. When the conversation turns to not liking LA, Rogan is able to relate again.
I got very depressed. I was like, this is high school all over again.
Me too. That's exactly how I
was like,
felt.
what the, I mean, I went to grad school. I'm in New York City. There's guys that I could relate to and talk about movies. I was in heaven. Then I get this job that I think is going to be the holy grail, and I'm miserable.
I was on the set of this show, and a girl gave me a hug. And I realized no one had touched me in weeks. And the hug she gave me, I was like, oh. It was like my battery got recharged.
Dude.
Like, I didn't realize I needed a hug.
Maybe I'm pathologizing this too much, but if Rogan's all about authenticity, then I'm supposed to be reading his podcast this way. I'm supposed to be looking at the emotional investment being put into it. And right now, I'm not hearing someone talk about vulnerability. I'm hearing a guy talk about how they needed a woman.
That's the other great thing about what I get to do. So you do a movie like a Sniper, and you get to be with these people who have dedicated their lives to this thing.
Well, it expands you as a human.
Oh, no question.
You know more about what it is to be a human. Like, oh, there's a human who just plays the flute. But I do things that are that I think are going to help me figure out who I am. And I think the only way you really figure out who you are is to do difficult things.
Yeah.
But I think through those things, you learn more about who you are. Through difficult things and getting better at difficult things, that's where you learn more.
Over and above my own interest in Bradley Cooper as an artist, this is where I really figured out what makes Rogan so popular. It's not just the curiosity that Cooper describes. He's the audience insert in a conversation like this. Because imagine you yourself was having this conversation. Would you know how to keep up with what Cooper's saying? Or would you just sort of watch his eagerness as a spectacle unto itself? Rogan has worked in Hollywood. On his podcast, he's probably interviewed hundreds of actors at this point. But his side of this conversation hasn't come close to matching the passion on Cooper's side.
And that's one of the great things about your show is I can feel your curiosity, and then I'm learning from your curiosity what things that I would never normally know how to go on to.
Yeah, that's the most valuable gift of this show for me.
It's the best.
Is that I get to pick who I talk to. So I only talk to people that I'm fascinated by or someone who's interesting to me or something like, oh, this is going to be cool.
And then it's like, oh, so we're actually going to watch two human beings talk to each other? Oh, that's kind of great.
Once again, the conversation turns to AI.
I haven't gotten to that level. I go like, how was your New Year's?
Oh, do you do that to
Yes,
it? You ask the AI?
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to process and like how they're going to try to communicate. I'm a huge believer in art.
Yeah.
I think art is, in any form is a key to our communicative ability and like not feeling alone. It really comes down to me, at least, just not feeling alone, part of a community.
Yeah.
That's it. Because me alone. And if I'm controlling a robot, it's still me alone. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Well, it's a disconnect too.
That's what I mean. It's a disconnect.
Art is a connect, right?
It is. When it works,
great
it's a connect.
Art. Yeah, great art is an expression of someone's humanity that you get to feel like this person did this thing. Just shut the fuck up. It's splatter. But it's just this change is a strange change because we're essentially creating an artificial life form. Yeah, and the entertainment aspect of it is just a side effect. It's weird the way progress moves. It's because you can call it progress, but is it even better? What is progress? It's like technological innovation and adaptation to it. I don't know if it's progress, but you have more access now to other people's creations than ever before. Like you can be absorbed in other people's work all the time now.
Yeah, or it was frowned upon.
Right.
Or like, well, you're not smart if you talk about this.
Right.
You know, it's like, let everybody decide.
Right.
And the truth is, we don't know fucking anything.
No. Well, there's a lot of gatekeepers when it comes to what you should or should not be interested in.
I think it's amazing. As long as you could be, you know, you're like, okay, I'm looking at it. This is not, you know, the Bible of what it is, but let me just hear this take. You know, that's only healthy, I think.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
I guess even if Cooper appreciates the conversations, he doesn't actually know a lot about Rogan himself.
The problem and the fear is like, oh no, you're going to get, and then the cults and the group and the thing, and all of a sudden there's a movement, and you know. But whenever that happens anyway, there's so much infighting, and the thing gets diluted anyway. Like it's never going to work.
Because I don't think he realizes how piercing that observation actually is.
Well, if you think about it, I came out as transgender 34 years ago. It's a little better now, but it's still not the hottest ticket that everyone's. We want transgender guys in here for this, that, the other. It's not the top of the list.
Right. Yeah, because if you were just talking, like if you didn't have makeup on and you didn't have the heels and the nails, you just seem male.
Yeah. I think there's quite a lot of people maybe who were the way they live their lives, they live their own personality. They're not particularly male or female.
Mm-hmm.
I feel. But I've always felt since I was 4 or 5, I wanted to express this side of myself, and it's built in. I think it's genetic. And if you analyze masculine and feminine, if you really get down to it, I find it impossible to come up with anything that was particularly masculine, particularly feminine, except for the ability to build muscle mass is easier for men, in inverted commas. That's it. But, you know, great footballers, soccer players, men and women, athletics, runners, men and women, strong character, men, weak character.
Sure.
And we get fixated by the masculine and feminine. Whereas if it's a tiger, if a tiger's attacking you and trying to kill you, you don't go, now, is this a girl tiger or a boy tiger? We don't care about it. And they don't care either. But there's all this feminine side, girl side. I'm not sure how to do it. Articulate, even after 34 years, it's difficult to articulate. But I wanted to express that. And if I look more like a woman, then it would be much easier. But so I decided to do that in '85 when it wasn't cool, and I've had a lot of fights in the street, a lot of people screaming abuse at me.
Well, it's certainly now. I think because of probably Caitlyn Jenner and the movement that you're seeing to accept people that want to do whatever and anything they want to do.
Yeah, it is just we're more accepting of each other. We do seem to be more. What's the word? Begins with a T. More open, more allowing. There's a word for it which just walked out of my head. But anyway, that word.
Do you remember when candy cigarettes were a toy for kids?
Yeah, I had those. Oh, yeah. They were priming you. Yeah, it was just a way to sell candy, but probably also engineered by the tobacco companies.
Today's guest is Whitney Cummings. You might remember her from such things as...
I thought being a mom would mean that less people would want to come see me. I'm now playing, like 3,000-seat theater, awesome. Which is about the viewership of CNN these days.
You a huge Friends fan?
You know what? I'm a Friends fan. I'm also a fan of entertainment that just entertains. There's this new thing where everything in Hollywood has to lecture people how to vote. It didn't make you feel guilty about global warming. It's just a fun show.
Yes, the phones are obviously very bad for kids, but when you think about the stuff we did as kids, I would just hang out with a light socket for 2 hours. That's all I needed. A paper clip, light socket, it's a mirror.
Light socket.
Or the
electric socket?
Electric socket.
You would go into an electric socket with a paper clip?
Did no one else do this?
That's really bad.
At this point, I have to imagine this is the origin story of most of Rogan's guests. Talking about how dangerous the stuff we used to give kids was leads into talking about needing an ID to buy Sudafed.
I went to get NyQuil or Sudafed the other day, and they made me show my ID.
Leads into talking about an overuse of Adderall by people who are lying about ADHD.
You just say you have ADHD.
Which then leads into journalists using Adderall.
The amount of journalists that are on Adderall is off the charts.
Sure.
Which then leads into journalists using ChatGPT to write articles.
Did you see, I think it was the New York Times, or someone left in, Jamie, do you remember the prompt that ends what it spits out on ChatGPT to prove that they had just copy and pasted it?
She mentioned earlier that she uses Reddit, so I'm inclined to think that she saw this newspaper clipping and assumed New York Times. The New York Times only reported on other outlets getting caught using AI.
What is it? What is it? ADHD?
The inability to focus, or
is that real?
A busy brain. Dude, Look, I think a lot of our superpowers are being dulled. A lot of people with superpowers are being dulled by pharma, and we're being pathologized for actually kind of extreme strengths, in a lot of ways. So
there's a lot of like legitimate people that are arguing that about ADHD.
Okay, good. I'm not like a
nut. Legitimate psychologists, neuroscientists.
There are not.
Oh, they can't sit in a classroom and watch some pedophile lecture them on fake history while they're getting hemorrhoids in some like chair with like shitty lighting above them. I mean, it's like, yeah, of course kids are bored. Of course they can't sit.
I could get angry at this, but I don't think it's necessary given that it's transparently a right-wing grift. Apparently they think there's a serial killer in Austin targeting gay men.
Your boy Brandon over here, I was like, what's up with the Rainy Street Killer? I always want the updates on the Austin serial killer who's pushing gay dudes off bridges.
Cops want to say it's not really a serial killer. And I'm like, how many guys have to drown before you start getting nervous?
According to all official reports, there is nothing to indicate there is an actual serial killer.
Rainy Street?
How do the cops know the victims are gay?
They
just
smell
them. They just check their assholes. They're like, I fucked the corpse's asshole. He's gay.
They bring a dilator.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty offensive.
I'm obsessed with how there were Nazis that had to find out who was gay.
So did Christians.
Oh, really?
Of course. It's in the Bible.
To be like, I just fucked these guys. They are gay. Let's get them.
In the old days, in the Bible, if a man layeth with another man, you're supposed to be put to death. If you go back in history, guys were fucking each other all the time. The Spartans did it.
That's wild. I always am like, what are the things we're doing now that we're going to look back in 50 years and be like, remember in 2006 when they were doing that?
Trans surgeries? 100%, especially on children.
Also having phones 24/7. Do you
100%.
think phones will be like cigarettes? Will be like...
No, it'll be in your body by then.
I love that Rogan has these thoughts consecutively because it really underscores his inability to recognize his bias against trans people. Because it's like psychological distress leading to high levels of suicidality, crime against humanity. Needlessly shortening the distance between your cell phone and your ear, inevitable, necessary. Human progress.
In some ways feel like you might be smarter if you forget half the shit you know, because half the shit we learned has been debunked anyway. Like half of science and history is not.
I mean, look, there was a study that was widely criticized fairly recently that labeled Fruit Loops as being healthier than ground beef.
But who sponsored that study?
That's the thing about all these things. It's like, who are these people, and can I see them naked?
Yeah, that's it.
Take your fucking clothes off. Let me see what you look like.
That's fucking weird. And also the study Rogan's referring to was intentionally designed to get the result he's criticizing. Great job.
Lightly anti-Semitic quotes. You're like,
Oh,
did Aristotle really say this?
Right. The Stoics, yeah, I don't know, man. But
there weren't even Jews back then.
What
the fuck is this guy talking about?
Judaism is thousands of years older than Aristotle. Apparently, having a kid made Whitney Cummings into a massive asshole.
I mean, you really look at every authority figure around kids differently. Mm-hmm. Every teacher, every coach. You're just like, what are you in this for?
Right.
You're not in it for the money.
Moving on to dieting and plant toxins.
Oxalates is one for sure. Oxalates is terrible for you.
Oxalates are not nearly as bad for you as Rogan implies. It's just that too much of them can cause kidney stones.
But the way to get around that is cooking them.
Close enough. Boiling them leaches off the most oxalates.
But one of the things that I've heard from people that are pretty knowledgeable is that the issue might not be the actual plants itself. It might be pesticides.
That's the other thing. They say the worst thing you can eat at a restaurant anywhere is salads because it's just covered in pesticides.
Nope. Salad would actually be one of the safest. And after that, Whitney proved my point about comics and Rogan's Sphere being more about bullying than actual jokes.
Nothing in this comment section is worse than what Tony Hinchcliffe just said to me on the phone. in a conversation.
And you laughed.
I just talked to Tim Dillon for an hour. I have no self-esteem left. This is a warm hug. My comment section is where I go for compliments at this point.
Sometimes I forget that when I'm hanging out with normies. And I'll just drop a bomb.
Yeah, no. Same.
You just look at their face what the fuck did you just say? I'm like, I thought we were talking shit.
The Puerto Ricans have guns, homie.
The Puerto Ricans love him.
Yeah, they do.
If there's any group of people that are great at talking shit, it's Puerto Ricans.
It's like Jennifer Lopez cut to her crying because she's like, what are jokes? But yeah, I love...
She doesn't count.
Why doesn't she count?
Okay, not to bring up California, but have you seen this doomsday fish?
What's that?
It's a fish that only appears when an earthquake's about to happen.
Oh, great.
And they're coming up around Monterey in California. It's like a syringe with fins.
Really?
You know these like fish at the bottom of the ocean that we
Oh, and they're getting away from the bottom because they feel
coming
like
up.
that it's coming?
Then they get to internet anonymity.
Well, that's the argument that some people have that I completely disagree with, that it should be your name. Everyone should know who's posting that, and that you shouldn't be allowed to post anonymously. My problem with that is that eliminates all whistleblowing.
Oh, good point.
You know, you're working at some defense contractor,
Yeah.
and you know they're doing something horrible.
That's not how whistleblowing works.
Made it into something positive because like being a female comedian on the internet's like pretty wild, and it's like I signed up to make people happy or make people laugh or give people some kind of escape from their life, and if you hating me or saying some mean shit gives you like a hit of like great. I don't think I came into comedy being like everyone has to love me like that.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
People hate Chappelle.
People stopped liking Dave Chappelle because he became mean, unfunny, and doubled down when he faced criticism for it.
It's interesting when that kind of, I think that as a comic, like it's, you know, and you do something sort of different here, but I never, you know, to take a side just feels so weird. It just feels so bizarre.
Rogan uses a really weird analogy to describe how he gets his political ideas.
I think it's the opposite of what wokies do with animals. With animals, they're like, adopt, don't shop.
Mm-hmm.
I think with your ideas, you should shop around. Don't adopt. Don't adopt like all the ideas that the left has or all the ideas that the right has. Shop around.
Also,
Say,
breeders are bad, so rescue a dog from a breeder if you need to.
Right. Well, look, breeders are bad, right? Okay. I have the best fucking dog in the world, and he came from a breeder.
Some are good, some are bad. Some rescues are good. Some of the worst people on earth are animal rescue people.
Another interesting 180 from a comedian.
This has been an exercise in Rogan justifying his own actions via analogies that present his ideological opponents as crazy. And when you notice how often this happens, it's like seeing The Matrix with how common it is.
And since we're on the topic of fraud, obviously they moved to Minnesota.
Where does it go?
24 billion.
But just, I'm not
unaccounted
even,
for.
I'm not even mad. Just tell me where it is. How do you even hide
They
that
don't
much
even
money?
know. They
How do you even
literally
hide
don't
it?
know. So the House Judiciary Committee released a report on the LA Fire Aid concert. Look at this. $100,000 to podcasters. I want to know who the fuck the podcasters were that got $100,000.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Like, what does that mean? Like, what did they prevent fires with that money? $500,000 was used to cover salaries, bonuses. Imagine you got a bonus because there was a fire. Consultant fees for nonprofit
But if it's a
organizations.
nonprofit, why are you giving it money?
And
to
why are you giving them
profit?
bonuses?
Look, it'd just be easier to call Republicans biased against California and call it a day. But LA fire aid money has been independently audited, journalistically investigated by outlets on both political sides, and no one has found any indication of fraud. But that doesn't stop Rogan from having a severe reaction based on his predetermined assumptions.
I mean, some of that is fucking criminal. This one drives me nuts. Organizations involved in political advocacy, $500,000.
Why is anyone advocating for politics? Like, what does that even mean?
It's just stealing money.
That's right. That's just money laundering.
Rogan, amusingly at least, doesn't seem to realize that he's saying a lot of musicians who would probably like to have as guests participated in a fraud against their own city for no personal gain, and that none of the hundreds, if not thousands of people coordinating behind the scenes for them did anything to verify the group they were performing for individually.
Fungus planting projects. What? To plant fungus.
Yes, because ecosystems were destroyed and they need to be rebuilt.
But also, they're like, we know we're going to get away with this. Like, I just
But
love.
they're not, because this guy, the congressman, is looking it up. It's gonna, they're definitely gonna talk about it. It's gonna be a problem for these people. It's gonna be a problem during re-election, and it's supposed to be. They're monsters. These people are evil. They're really evil.
For someone who doesn't trust the government, he's really trusting the government right now.
The charity culture is just such a bizarre. Does every country have this charity culture?
I don't know. Well, our charity culture is really weird because of U.S. aid. And then you realize, like, oh, no, it's not U.S. aid. It's U.S. Agency for International Development. Whores! Mike Benz is the guy to follow on that.
Oh my god. Mike Benz is a right-wing conspiracy theorist who has said under a pseudonym that Jews control the government and are doing white genocide. And he made another appearance on Rogan while I was editing this.
There was a guy that was running a bunch of daycares. He had no
Already
one
a red flag.
in California. No one at his organization, no kids, pulled up in a fucking Rolls Royce when they were investigating. A Rolls Royce.
And once again, Rogan demonstrates his own criticism of social media by falling for fake news.
This looks fake.
It really does.
It looks fake as shit.
It looks fake as shit. This looks like completely staged.
You get to a point with real and fake where you're just like, it might as well be.
It's just like we live in a strange world, and no one investigated where all this money was going in the past.
The Minnesota fraud was already being investigated under the Biden administration.
One of the things that Elon said to me, he said Medicaid fraud is the biggest amount of money that's fraudulent in this country, and he didn't want to even talk about it because he was worried that people would kill him. But you know,
the American dream,
dude. The
dude.
politicians were getting so much money from these people,
right?
Just from the Somali community that owned daycare centers. The Minnesota politicians were getting $35 million last year.
Is Tim Walz to blame for that? I don't know.
Well, he just stepped down from his re-election. That's not good.
They were not. Once again, this is fake news that was propagated on social media.
That's the thing about the internet. If you want to get outraged, it's there to feed you.
Yeah, totally. And then
all day long. It's in the billions now. It's bigger than the entire GDP of Somalia, just from Minnesota, allegedly.
Wild.
The entire GDP of a country, one state's fraud.
And is it true that the guy that uncovered it was kind of like some guy? Like it was
this
like
Nick Shirley kid?
Yeah, this like internet
young kid. Yeah, he seems like a very smart kid. I've seen him. He was on Patrick Bet-David's show.
Yeah,
he's a virgin.
Before I had a kid, it was like, is he gonna text me back? Now I'm like obsessed with like finite resources. I'm like, where's all the helium? Like we're running out of helium. Like where's the
what's helium for besides balloons?
Hilarious. Yeah, I won't be able to have a birthday party for my son. It's
We are not going to run out of helium anytime soon, despite what Smiling Friends had to say about it.
What are clowns gonna do?
Damien, I sent you that thing about the lady that's now in charge of housing in New York.
Okay, 1. He is sourcing a video from Twitter after days of hearing about how social media is rotting your brain. 2. That's not the person in charge of housing in New York. She's in charge of tenants' rights. 3. I am doing basic Googling for most of this.
Well, a lot of these wokies, they come from rich families. They feel bad about being privileged.
Yeah.
And one specifically thing she said that was going to really impact white people.
And now the usual, I used to be on the left, but then they went crazy.
I was as liberal. I had blue hair, you guys. Like
yeah, I remember when you had blue hair.
I rescue pit bulls. Like it doesn't get any more liberal than me. Like it doesn't get any more. But the whole idea with being liberal is like you had me at, we're not racist. Everyone's equal. But diversity. But then it turns into diversity.
Communism.
Diversity, but not diversity of thought.
She says, sitting across from someone who has brought the conversation back to trans people, welfare fraud, Trump being better than Dems, and totally not an Epstein pedo without providing genitive substantiation for any of his positions. Every day I've watched him so far.
We don't believe in gender, but we need a female president. You're like, huh? And then it's like, my body, my choice. Unless it's a baby that needs a vaccine for hepatitis B, which comes from butt sex. Like,
there is no cure for hepatitis B. The most you can do is prevention, and that requires a vaccine. And that leads to a conversation between two millionaires about it being a good thing that New York is expensive because it means you want to be there.
New York is expensive. That's the deal. I remember one time going to Howard Stern's house, and this is whatever $100 million, whatever it gets you in New York. Like,
I know it's nuts.
Still not that big. like
I know.
My horse's stable. Yeah, my horse's stable is like twice the size of this.
If I asked AI to generate a more out-of-touch comparison for this conversation, I don't think it would be able to.
For a long time, I think I took bad advice that maybe I had just gleaned. I don't remember anyone giving it to me of like, you have to be crazy to be funny, or your life has to be a mess to be funny. I think a lot of comics hold on to that. If I ever get happy or...
What I find interesting about this conversation isn't Whitney herself, because I think she's pretty boring, and judging by Rogan's reactions, I think he agrees.
Wow. It doesn't have to be true, but it can be true.
Can be. That's right.
Well, comfort can make people fat, too. They can get lazy.
What's interesting is that when you compare this actual comedian's take on comedy to Bradley Cooper just trying to emulate it, there is a wide gap in the level of authentic passion you get from each of them.
You got to make sure that you're still in the trenches and that you don't make your life so easy that,
you're not disassociated. You're not disconnected from the outside world.
And somehow the conclusion Rogan comes to in this conversation about New York is that the backlash to Mamdani is going to result in the next mayor being a Republican. In New York. A Republican.
What's probably going to do is it's probably going to lead to some sort of a Republican government there. There's probably going to be a lot of backlash. People are probably going to organize. They're probably going to realize that you can't have communism, and it'll swing the other way.
Rogan must only have 4 senses left because he is out of touch.
There was a little bit of like a elitism. I think it's part of what made TV start becoming kind of irrelevant is these sort of like elite writers from Harvard making shows like The Office and these comedies. It's gonna get me in trouble, but it is kind of like making fun of poor people. It's like, wouldn't it be funny if people like worked at a paper mill and like went to Chili's? Like, what a bunch of losers. It's like,
So far, all of the funniest moments on Rogan have been the total obliviousness on display, because that was, in Rogan's terms, the wokiest thing I've ever heard.
especially also when you've been around long enough and you've seen things you found to be true be completely debunked. Like, remember when we all thought soy milk was healthy and now like half my guy friends have tits and my girlfriend's tits all got cut off? I'm like, everyone I know has cancer.
Soy milk doesn't do that. The phytoestrogen people talk about in soy milk does not act in humans the same way normal estrogen does.
After you've been conned enough, you're sort of like, I think very skeptical about accepting these like new truths. And look, we learned that the Native Americans and the Pilgrims had like a fun dinner. They like got along great.
Because as a kid, it's more important to learn about accepting diversity than it is to learn about genocide. Why do you think you aren't woke? They come back to AI again.
It would recognize that human beings are so destructive and so often full of shit and manipulative and looking to just figure out a reason or a way that they can sneak something through or make something happen or overthrow a government. AI is going to go, you can't do it that way anymore. We're not going to give you that kind of power anymore because you guys are abusive every single time you get a lot of power.
Why do you think you aren't woke? And this is the last thing I'm going to bring up because I'm getting bored. Whitney unintentionally calls out Rogan.
I don't have to tell you, those comics that you like look up to so much that they're legends, and then all of a sudden they just stop being funny. And you're like, how did this happen? Whether it's because they've, incubated themselves against, doing what normal people do on a daily basis and, assistants. But they've surrounded themselves. They're not friends with comics. It's always that. It's like, how did that person start? They're just not friends with comics. And they don't have someone humbling them constantly and pushing back and giving them shit. And
all the motivations that got them to be funny when they were younger have been eliminated. Because almost all of it is try to get extra attention.
That's right.
From girls or from your friends. You're trying to be funny. You have no motivation to be funny anymore because everybody loves you and you're rich.
It's like I look when they're like memories and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Because it's in here.
The word retarded is back. And it's one of the great culture victories.
There's been a tilt in the conversation, in both conversations, in the last couple of years. And it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts, who are not experts. Who's that other dude who thinks he's an expert on Churchill?
Daryl Cooper does not think he's an expert.
It's pretty hard to listen to somebody who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, but now I'm going to talk. If you throw a lot of shit out there, there's some point at which I'm just raising questions is not a valid thing. You're not raising questions. You're not asking questions. You're telling people something.
Do you think Daryl's doing that?
I think there's a whole bunch of guys doing that. I think Dave is doing that, very obviously. Dave's a comedian, but he's now mainly talking about Israel. I feel you've opened the door to quite a lot of people who've now got a big platform who have been throwing out counter-historical stuff of a very dangerous kind. Look, these guys are not historians. They're not knowledgeable about anything.
No one's calling Ian Carroll a
No,
historian,
but then why
even-
listen to their views on Churchill?
Daryl is incredibly knowledgeable.
He's not.
Yeah,
he's
he
not.
is.
If you say, I've decided that Churchill is the bad guy in
It's not
World
what he
War
said.
II.
It's not what he said. It's not what he said.
Neither Carroll nor Cooper have said that?
Well, listen, I don't know what Carroll said, but Daryl Cooper has not said that. What he said was he jokes with his friend Jocko, who's an Anglo-Saxon. He jokes with him. I think that Churchill was the secret villain of World War II. And what he's saying is by Churchill's actions, the war escalated. He's not saying anything.
He's not just asking questions then, is he? But if you only get the contrary view, which is, isn't it fun if we all pretend Churchill was the bad guy of the 20th century? At some point, you're going to lead people down a path where they think that's the view. And that's horse shit of the most profound kind. There are a lot of people who have come along, partly I think because they've come on this show, who have come along and they've decided, I can play this double game. on the one hand, I'm going to push really edgy and frankly sometimes horrific opinions. And then if you say that's wrong, they say I'm a comedian.
But wait a minute.
How can you tell me I'm just a comedian?
Well,
I'm just throwing stuff out
What
there.
horrific opinions that's wrong? If you take Daryl's words out of context, Daryl has some of the most nuanced, balanced, and charitable views on all the figures in history.
Well, particularly Hitler, it seems.
No, you're wrong.
True.
You're wrong.
He also said on here that he wasn't anti-Semitic until the Holocaust. There were no speeches of Hitler's in the 1930s.
No, he said he was not public about it.
He said he was downplaying it to win over. He said there was a period where he was downplaying it to win over popular support in Germany. It was his argument.
There is no historian of World War II who thinks that Hitler was downplaying anti-Semitism in the 1930s. That was what he was doing. He wrote a book about it in the 1920s. He got to power on it, and he grew his power on the back of it. The idea that you can argue that in the 1930s, Adolf Hitler was downplaying the anti-Semitism, there's no historian who would agree with that. So why would you throw out the idea that in the 1930s, Hitler was not being anti-Semitic in public? That was what he was doing in public. He announces to the German parliament what he wants to do. So when you're throwing out claims like he was keeping it down in the 1930s, first of all, what are you doing? And secondly, why?
Today is going to test my composure because Rogan is having a conversation with Rand Paul about COVID, and I don't know if I can show it. Not because of the misinformation. I don't know if YouTube allows me to show two guys sucking each other off this hard.
You were a lone voice of reason during the pandemic, and I was cheering you on every step of the way. When you were grilling Anthony Fauci, with all due respect, you do not know what you are talking about. It was mind-numbing how many people were going along with it and how many people just accepted what he was saying.
At least Metzger had the decency to dress like a nutjob and not like Will Ferrell from Night at the Roxbury.
One of the greatest tragedies, and we knew this within days, was that children weren't getting sick.
They were.
No child without a health issue really died.
Well, they
Zero.
got sick, but it wasn't dangerous for them.
It was.
The argument was you're going to bring it home and you're going to infect your grandma and she's going to die. That was
The argument didn't really hold water, though, because everybody got it anyway.
Hey, pal. You just blowing from Stupid Town?
First, the foreplay, where Rogan offers some pushback.
But here's another thought. You could have said, yeah, kids could take it to their grandparents, so until the kid has gotten it and recovered for 2 weeks, tell them not to visit their grandparents. You know what I mean?
Well, the problem was the people that live with their grandparents.
Yeah, I know. And there would be the exceptions to the rule. And one of my favorite quotes was from a guy named Martin Kulldorff. He was an epidemiologist at Harvard who ended up getting fired.
Martin Kulldorff, as Rand did point out here, was fired from Harvard. What Rand doesn't include is that it was because of his insane ideas about COVID, including that we shouldn't do anything to mitigate its spread in 2020.
People got it less severely so the second time they got it, if they got it at all.
Much less severely so. I got it twice, and the second time I couldn't even believe it was actually COVID.
Your anecdotal evidence is appreciated but not relevant.
But you can't argue with someone when you can't use facts.
Right.
So he didn't have any facts at his disposal.
Maybe first or second month, Fauci comes in, and I said, you know, many people who die from the flesh-eating bacteria, which is what they give them to try to treat them to prevent death and loss of limbs, is high-dose IV steroids. And so I asked Anthony Fauci, I said, do you think there's a chance? And he said, oh, no, we've tried that. To that, in some bacterial infections, steroids, like with the flesh-eating strep, sometimes you actually give massive steroids in the setting of an infection, and some of these people survive. It's in the fatal cases, are they finding that steroids in addition, well, we don't really have an antiviral treatment, but are they using some steroid treatment in the real severe cases and having any success?
They've done it in an empiric, non-control way, and there doesn't seem to be any difference that there's any effect, positive or negative.
Right. Well, I guess in a bacterial infection, we would never do it unless we were also giving antibiotics. So if you had an antiviral plus steroids, might be a different scenario. Thank you. That's all I have. Turns out the best treatment when you were just about to go on the ventilator or on the ventilator when you have a 50% chance of dying at that point was IV steroids, an old generic medicine that Big Pharma doesn't make much money off of.
It's interesting that Rogan had on a guest some days prior to this saying that COVID is a bioweapon, and now he's talking to someone who says that there's a simple treatment.
Well, I mean, he has a history of using medicine that has already been through the approval rating with, what they did with AZT during the pandemic of AIDS.
Right.
And that proved to be horrific, a terrible disaster.
AZT was not horrific the way he describes. Despite severe side effects for some, it still helped people live longer and has been used in treatments decades later.
The other thing about natural immunity that needed to be brought up is, so all the people that were declared essential kept working, and there'd be like 296 people at a meatpacking place in Missouri. All of them got COVID. Most of them survived, but what we should have been telling them is 2 weeks after you got it, come back to work. You don't have to wear a mask now. You've had it. You have immunity. You won't spread it to your family. And guess what? All the unknown about whether you're going to die or not, you survived and you're done. But instead, we told people you might get it again and you still might die and you got to wear a mask all day long, when in reality, we should have been celebrating the people who recovered and letting them have their freedom back.
Natural immunity lasts for about 4 months max, and you can't tell just from looking at someone whether or not they've had it. And also, while hospitals were bringing in refrigerated trucks for the overflow of dead bodies, you want to limit the amount of other illnesses going around.
Well, there was also this kooky thing where after you got over the disease, they wanted you to get vaccinated, which was strange. It was almost like they wanted you to join the team, like take the blood oath.
Yeah.
Again, 4 months of immunity.
And this is the problem with the mass vaccination thing. If you're going to Walgreens, do you think they ask you if you've had COVID recently before they gave you a shot?
They do.
And he also was there when they had the swine flu epidemic. And in that, more people died from the swine flu vaccine. And I think there were no deaths from swine flu. They said, it's going to take over the world. And nobody died. The epidemic quickly stopped.
The epidemic stopped because of effective government intervention that didn't get pulled into culture war bullshit. And about 12,000 people died.
Turns out COVID had an age differential that was more significant probably than any disease we've ever seen. It really was an old person's disease.
Yeah. An old person and people with comorbidities.
Exactly.
That makes you expendable.
We had a outbreak in 2003. It was a different coronavirus. It was the first SARS virus, but we knew that those people 17 years later still had T cells and still had immunity to it. They tested her 100 years later. She still had antibodies to the Spanish flu. So immunity lasts a long damn time.
Wow.
There are stories and speculation about people who survived Spanish flu having a lasting immunity. However, influenza and COVID are two separate diseases that have separate impacts. Rand Paul must understand that if he's specifically pointing out that steroids are an effective treatment for people going onto a ventilator for COVID, because steroids suppress the immune system. COVID can send the immune system into overdrive, and the suppression stabilizes it where it can fight more effectively. If you gave someone with the flu steroids, you'd most likely just kill them because influenza can suppress the immune system.
I was like, this is wild.
Explain to me the science of that I can eat my peanuts for 20 minutes on the plane. And my favorite is some of the flight attendants were great. Some of them would actually come up to me and pass messages. I would get a little folded up message, thank you for what you're doing, thank you for challenging Fauci. But then some of them were Karens.
Okay, fine, you freaking Karens.
I don't think that I need a translator for that one, okay, guys?
You're all wrong about that, Karen.
I think I know exactly what that one means.
My information is 100% non-insane. You ever heard of QAnon?
Have you ever had Marty McCary on?
I have not, but I'm trying to.
Marty McCary is a doctor who thought that COVID would be gone in 2021 because of herd immunity, and Trump made him the head of the FDA.
Even from the American Pediatric Association, who are terrible. They're the worst people in the world on vaccine mythology and religiosity.
You know you're on the right side of things when you're calling pediatricians terrible.
Why do you think they're the worst when you said they're the worst on that?
I'm not completely, like, for example, with the COVID vaccine, I don't think children should take it because I think the risk of the heart inflammation is greater than the chance of the disease.
It's not. You're 46 times more likely to get heart inflammation from COVID than the vaccine.
Because this isn't 2020 anymore.
Well, not only that, I mean, when was the last time you heard of someone dying or being hospitalized?
That's what I mean.
COVID?
It's not happening. It's not happening.
We only had the first full year where there were fewer than 1,000 people dying a week between February of 2025 and now.
Because Big Pharma's just making a gazillion dollars off of still scaring everybody over 65. And if it still works, I'll come on your show and say, take it if you're over 65. But I don't know if it works. And I doubt that it works because I don't hear of anybody dying from COVID anymore.
But it's also this weird binary thing where it's like there's one thing that you could take and that's it. There's no talk about strengthening your immune system with vitamin supplementation and what are the other options that you could have once you actually get sick.
Hilariously, the vitamin supplementation he's talking about was one of the causes of kidney stones he brought up when he was talking to Whitney Cummings.
I think Fauci ranks right up there with his disregard for people's privacy. But even the stuff about the masks, you know that we studied pandemics for a decade. Bill Gates has been given gazillions of dollars. He's gotten the government to spend money. And when we studied pandemics, all the way up until 2020, there was never a recommendation for masks among the public.
This is an egregious lie because all you need to do is Google Spanish flu, the thing he talked about.
What's amazing to me is how many people in the general public are not skeptical. How many people in the general public will hear this kind of conversation and immediately their hackles get up and they want to argue against this. Vaccines save more. Vaccines are so important. They have no information. They've done no research. They've never looked at it objectively. They don't understand the whole history of compensation and what happened with the immunity.
I'll just be over here with my evidence that vaccines are the single most life-saving invention in human history.
But he also never got, and I kept saying this in the hearings, he needed humility. Humility to know that there's a possibility he's wrong in what he's saying and that it should be advice based on the best things we know, and other doctors should give advice because there might be other doctors that disagree with me on it, so you can choose. It's sort of the idea of getting a second opinion.
That's a great way to create chaos because without a set of unified rules, no one knows what anyone else is doing.
They would put these people on there and they would hide the fact that they had terminal cancer. And it is sad that a child dies anytime, but they were dying from their cancer and they just happened to have COVID.
And maybe they'd have gotten more time with their loved ones. Jesus Christ. And now apparently pharma companies are paying for ads so mainstream news doesn't report on them as though that makes any sense whatsoever.
It's a problem. I very rarely watch regular television. But every now and then, I'll just go, what are these fucking crazy people up to? Yeah. And I'll watch MSNBC or CNN.
And see a million drug ads.
The number of drug ads is staggering. And
but you're right.
It's not, they're not trying to use those ads to sell those drugs. They're using the money by putting those ads up to make sure that those pundits don't talk badly about the pharmaceutical drug companies.
It's probably more about shaping the news than it is getting sales.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. There have absolutely been horrific side effects of a bunch of different pharmaceutical drugs. You don't hear a peep about any of that stuff on CNN.
It took me 5 seconds to find a CNN article refuting this.
And they've just recently outlawed all the hemp stuff. And I've been fighting this for the last 2 months. But all the hemp products, I know Texas actually has a lot, they're all going to be banned within 1 year now.
Now, how did that get passed?
Mitch McConnell.
Thank God they're done with COVID. They talk about CBD and hemp for a bit. I guess their conversation on this is fine comparatively.
Who are we to tell somebody who can't sleep at night that an Ambien's better for them than taking a hemp gummy to go to sleep at night?
But then they talk about government workers briefly.
It's got to be very bizarre being a rational person working for the government.
Yeah. The people up there are of a different sort. Many of them have never worked really outside of government. So they really,
Fun.
Yeah, they know nothing about writing checks. Yeah, exactly.
We're telling you how to live your life.
He's a bureaucrat, Morty. I don't respect him.
To be clear, working in government is a career. They eventually get to Trump bombing Venezuelan boats and kidnapping Maduro.
Blowing up these people in boats off the coast of Venezuela. They're accused of running drugs, but nobody knows their names and nobody's put up any evidence. And against all justice and against all laws of war, all laws of just war, we never have blown up people who were shipwrecked. It's against the military code of justice to do that. But the weird thing about it is they really care about drugs, except for the former president of Honduras, Hernandez, who was given a 40-year sentence, was tried.
Rand is being very careful not to say that Trump was the one who pardoned him.
And he's let go at the same time we're arresting Maduro because we're attacking the United States with drugs.
Rand has to walk the tightrope of being a Republican while also maintaining his libertarian bona fides. And at this point, all it does is show that he has no principles, as he calls actions antithetical to his beliefs, simple disagreements.
You know, we've tried it in other places. It's one of the things I liked about Donald Trump. He was against regime change in Iraq. He was against regime change in Libya. And the good thing about President Trump, and this is something I always really like about him, he'll make decisions on the spot. He doesn't ask a committee to vote on whether he can talk to the president. The president still has good instincts. I disagreed with the bombing of the boats and the bombing of Maduro. I'm not too unhappy with the result, but I don't want the chaos to spread to Colombia. And I think Colombia does cooperate with us, particularly on the drug trade. It's not perfect, but he was talking about regime change in the campaign. Some of it's the influence of the people around him. I've jokingly said we ought to pass a law saying Lindsey Graham shouldn't be allowed in the White House, because I think I think most of these probably were drug
So why do you
boats.
think they're doing it then?
They wanted regime change, and I think Rubio has wanted regime change. He's been itching for it for 15 years, and I think he has a great deal of influence with the president. And they've convinced, and it's selling someone like the president that he can use his power for good is an argument that I think a lot of people would succumb to. It's my job and others to say that really invading Greenland's not a reasonable thing. Invading Cuba, invading Colombia, that there has to be pushback. I also don't even think it's good for the president, who I largely like on a lot of issues. It's not good for him to have no critics, for people to be afraid to criticize him.
I agree.
And when they get to talking about the oil in Venezuela, they don't even mention what Trump has said about it.
But so what is the primary motivation for regime change? It can't just be he's a bad guy.
Well,
because there's a lot of bad guys.
I think a country suffers, and people justifiably want better stuff for the people there. I think they also do worry, as you mentioned earlier. They say there's too much influence of Russia and China there.
That's what I've been reading most that makes sense, is that the concern was that China or Russia was going to ramp up oil production.
Right.
But I don't know.
And also, I don't think I've had a chance to do this yet. I said in my Kalinsky vid that this wasn't about oil. My description of Venezuelan oil still stands. An American oil company resistance to actually mobilizing towards Venezuela shows that it's not something you can actually just invade a country for. But as a primary motivating factor for Trump, yeah, I was wrong about that. Rogan gets into some questions that basically allow Rand to flex his libertarian beliefs, revealing a comical misunderstanding of economics and human behavior, starting with interest rates for loans.
Well, part of the interest rate being much higher, if you're going for a same-day loan, is, one, you're much higher risk, you're more desperate, but also by you having to pay 30%, it's going to teach you to be a better planner the next time, because you can't keep borrowing at 30%.
Then they get to housing costs.
What are your feelings about corporations buying up personal homes?
So to me, it's just a freedom issue. I don't think I think the price of homes has gone up because the value of your dollar has gone down. We are destroying the dollar. It's like, is gold more precious? No, people are freaking out about how many dollars have been printed and how much debt we're incurring, so the dollar loses its value. And prices are home. I'm not making light of the problem. You know, I have kids of the age of trying to get into houses. It's difficult. Prices are extraordinarily high.
Rand's breath must smell like glyphosate after that word salad. And also, corporate ownership of homes is not driving up housing prices to any significant degree. And once again on this show, someone uses both sidesism to sanitize Republican irresponsibility.
When it comes to the economy, and when it comes to spending money, what do you think can be done differently?
I think the first thing to acknowledge is both parties are equally guilty. The debt is the problem of both parties, and the spending is both parties. What if we spend 1% less next year on welfare, and I'll tell my party they have to spend 1% less on military?
That solution is insane. Then they get into talking about food stamps, and surprisingly, Rogan actually pushes back.
For example, food stamps. People say, well, the people are going to starve without food stamps. Well, why don't we just get rid of Coca-Cola and Pepsi? No sugar drinks on food stamps. That's 10% of food stamps. We're going to spend 10% less. No one's going to starve.
Would you spend less, or would you just limit their purchasing?
But there is a lot of things that you can buy that really, frankly, aren't, a head of lettuce is not that expensive. Beans aren't that expensive, and they're healthier for you than most of the things we eat. Some of this comes from a book. There was a book written by Charles Murray years ago called Coming Apart.
Charles Murray, isn't that the guy that had very controversial ideas about race and IQ?
Yep.
Yeah,
but this wasn't racial.
I cannot hide how much I loathe this man, and I think that bias is well earned.
This is the problem with social safety nets, where I'm a big believer in it. When I was a child, my family was poor and we were on welfare and we were on food stamps, but they worked their way out of it. And then when I was in high school, they were doing really, really well.
But we have to have tough love involved with it, and we have to have the idea that it's temporary and we're trying to get you to another place. So
you can't enable people to continue bad choices over and over and over again and say, well, we just have to take care of them.
I see work, and I would mandate work for welfare programs. If you're able-bodied, you would have to work. I wouldn't give you a penny. Everybody would have to work. But I tell people I'm not in favor of that as punishment. That is reward. Work is a reward.
And what level of work dictates the amount of welfare you get? And how much time will you have to seek a job to get off of welfare? All this does is trap people in cycles of debt Rand says you should be responsible enough to stay out of in the first place.
One of the things I want to talk to you about is what's going on in this country right now. Well, one of the big things that's in the news is this whole Minnesota thing, but particularly fraud.
Oh, the way you said that, I just thought we were going to talk about the other Minnesota thing.
A lot of these people that were getting a lot of money from this fraud were donating to politicians.
They were not.
So I had this debate for years with McCain. McCain said we should admit all these people who were interpreters in Afghanistan, all these people that are interpreters in Iraq. And my response to him was this: if they can speak English and they're pro-Western, they need to stay in their country and be the founding fathers of their country.
That answer is such horseshit, even Rogan has to call it out.
But isn't that a kind of a simplistic perspective? Because a lot of those people would be dead. You know,
we won the war.
What war?
Well,
we won what war?
The war went on forever and ever.
And what is Aleppo? You're kidding? No.
I think them leaving was them. They should have been the founding fathers of their country,
and they were in grave danger.
Right.
A lot of them became also. A lot of them were working with the Americans.
Yeah, no.
We left them there to die.
In 1812, the British came back and attacked us. If we would have all left and said, "Oh, well, damn, they're attacking us again, and we're under attack," no, they should have fought for their country.
Fuck you.
But we really didn't need another 80,000 people from Afghanistan. We didn't need another 80,000 people from Iraq.
Not a matter of need, you dumb bitch.
And that they're on
That's
Medicaid.
The problem, is the refugee status.
And then they figured out, gosh, they are smart at one thing. That's those learning centers, those leering centers. Boy, are they smart at those. So the poor Somalis sent like $700 million over the last couple of years.
Is that real?
Well, that's the number they're saying. That's why it all needs to be. It's been in the press reports. I can't tell you exactly who.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Okay, to be fair, he tries to back it up with stats from the TSA, but even then, they reference the totality of declared money, not specifically money to Somalia. There's no way for him to know the actual amount.
Everybody wants to help people, and you're a grumpy old terrible Scrooge if you don't want to give refugees more money. If you give them more money, they'll steal more money. You have to give them less, so everybody's looking harder at the money.
And despite having an actual U.S. senator in front of him, Rogan can't help but continue to go over all of the tired points he's brought up every chance he already could. Nothing about aliens or who killed JFK, just Democrats importing illegals.
What was your take on the border being wide open for the last 4 years? Telling them how to do it and even helping them get across, giving them EBT cards, giving them cell phones.
They say it's about, humanity and being humane and all that. It isn't that. It's all about voting demographics.
It's not that. It's never been that. It could never be that. The amount of obstacles in the strategy, as they define it, between bringing someone into the country and getting them the ability to actually vote are so numerous that you'd have better odds setting up a voter registration booth in a hospital maternity wing.
Well, you're going to shock you. I'm a moderate on this. I actually think that most of the people that are here and working lawfully and can pass a background check, I would give them no welfare, and I'd give them no citizenship, no voting privileges, but you can work and we won't arrest you.
Is the problem the census? Because why are they counting people and giving congressional seats based on people that aren't citizens? If they change that alone.
Rand Paul's out here thinking the 3/5 compromise is a novel idea.
I'll bet you 80% of the people here illegally would take work without citizenship. But you know who wants the citizenship and doesn't care about work? Democrats. All they care about is the voting part.
Rand is more than willing to piggyback off of all the misinformation Rogan spews, never having to affirm the information himself so that he doesn't have to get caught in the lie.
But the weirdest one was the open shipping people to swing states.
Yeah, you start to think it's not a humanitarian project, it's a voting project.
Yeah.
I'm going to spoil the end so we can get to the conclusion. Rand basically blames Democrat state governments for the death of Renee Good with the kind of logic a domestic abuser would use. The kind that says, I hate that you made me do this.
So one thing I would tell these left-wing cities is, if you want less ICE in your city, why don't you police your city?
Yeah, but
Rogan plays more conflicted, even if his description is a bit coarse.
I mean, L.A. without Mexicans would be crazy. I mean, it wouldn't be L.A. I mean, they are an integral part of Los Angeles, both illegal and legal. But what was your take on the actual shooting itself?
I don't know that I want to go too much into the specifics of it because I don't want to pass judgment like a jury would. I don't like to judge criminal things that happen in our country and say, well, that person needs to go to jail, or that person's innocent. I don't know that I can make that judgment. And then am I coloring the situation for anybody who will have to make that judgment someday on some kind of jury?
Unless they're committing welfare fraud, apparently.
My point is, the left brought this, it's not an answer, but it's an explanation that the left is bringing this to their cities because they're refusing to enforce the laws.
Right, and they don't want those laws. They don't like those laws. They think that once people are here, they should be able to stay. You know, this is what my friend Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy. And then I can also see the point of view of the people that say, yeah, but you don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up, many of which turn out to actually be U.S. citizens that just don't have their papers on them. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to? So it's more complicated than I think people want to admit.
Gestapo for some, tiny American flags for others.
Now, we're not talking about some guy mowing lawns. We're talking about somebody who stole a car.
No, the criminal is the pretense to deport the lawnmower. There are way too many examples at this point for it to be anything else.
And a good example of that is
resisting.
Aurora, right? Aurora, Colorado, where Trend Agua was taking over apartment buildings and they were a sanctuary city.
And this is the perfect point to end it all on because this story was also fake.
Right.
Pure insanity.
Yep.
You ever notice how when somebody's driving and they're going to be late, they say, I'm stuck in traffic and not, I am traffic? There's something to the way we individualize ourselves as separate from inconvenient systems when we're a part of them. Sure, in literal terms, it's kind of awkward to say I'm traffic, but functionally you are to someone else on the road as much as they are to you. People in the media mistake themselves for individuals within a system instead of being a surrogate of the system. A news anchor isn't just an anchor. If you're watching one, that's your entry point to engage with the news media. No one is accessing every opening at once, and there are now more openings than ever, from the proper anchors and pundits on TV, to the streamers and YouTubers, to every single person you follow on social media. You become the media when you post. You are the media that people listen to as much as a news anchor, even if your audience is one. Interactions with media are ingested individually, and that in turn creates broad understanding. Whether that understanding is accurate is another story. Whether you're a news anchor, a streamer, or a musician at a concert, the interaction being created isn't bidirectional between thousands of people and one person. It's one way, 1,000 individual conversations between one person and their audience. Social media has entrenched and supercharged a system that encourages sharing information by stoking strong emotional responses at the expense of accuracy and honesty.
Spaceball 1. They've gone to plaid.
The cacophony is as much an expression of anger as it is of information starvation. Questions like, what are the Dems doing, aren't just rhetorical concern for the well-being of others, it's a literal request for information.
Who would make love to that? How do you make love? Do you have a book? What? How do you do it? I'm asking.
But because people are siloed into specific media habits, they aren't getting that information. And the individuals who exist within the systems that are supposed to deliver it don't see themselves as responsible for the delivery.
It's not my fault. I'm not to blame.
No one wants to look it up because no one expects to have to look it up because no one thinks of themselves as part of the media ecosystem. Social media isn't seen as a civic responsibility. It's seen as a way to receive attention. But we are providing the content for one another, so we need to be mindful of what that content is. You, as someone who posts on social media, are responsible for the outlook you engender in other people if you choose to offer your own. That means knowing for certain that something is accurate. Joe Rogan is emblematic of the problem with social media. simultaneously criticizing its influence while being wholly under its spell. When I say you shouldn't use Twitter as a source, I'm not implying that literally everything on the website is wrong. I'm saying that the way information and misinformation have been mixed together makes it impossible to reliably say whether something is right or wrong just by looking at it, regardless of how much you yourself trust it. We are caught in an information haze, only able to glimpse the outline of what is precise and accurate, vaguely gesturing so as to convey its meaning. We end up communicating via memes and references that strike an emotional tone that determines how one will choose to accept new information down the line. It's more than just illusory truth. It's an illusory identity. Our issues generally start from a place where we don't know how to put our feelings into words. We seek people who have insight that might be able to provide it, not just as a way to articulate our frustrations, but as a way to solve them. However, we can mistake the ability to accurately express a frustration with the ability to solve it. How many men go to Andrew Tate for advice on women only to come away feeling even worse, believing that it's a result of greater understanding and not intentional misunderstanding? Conspiracies are born out of the same natural compulsion. The same way we try to reconcile ourselves, we try to reconcile the world.
It's all connected. A web of conspiracy that goes all the way to the top of Arizona.
We give things larger purpose so as to justify how it makes us feel instead of learning to accept things as they truly are. And when things have much larger consequences, the answers we search for become more palatable than the answers that are most apparent. A storm is a tragedy until you remember you advocated against the ways in which we might be able to prevent them in the future. A vaccine stops being a means to prevent disease because admitting that in turn means you have to reconcile however many people you hurt by advocating against it. Backing down becomes self-destruction. It activates the same survival instincts as if you were faced with real danger. And there are people who will gladly go along with and enable that denial, knowing that it is a potent drug to numb one's mind or to take advantage of that state to elevate themselves. But like any drug, addiction comes at a cost. Friends, family, the life you had becomes supplanted by a network of enablers. It is a community that reinforces isolation. The right-wing echo chamber at this point doesn't exist just to give people news. It is an alternate reality shaped to their audience's preferences for a world in which their pain has justification. It provides the affirmation necessary to continue denying their own actions. However, this is not something exclusive to the right. It is exclusive to extremism. When political goals are dependent upon contradictory characteristics between your ideals and your leaders, you need to be held in a state of constant social anxiety to maintain loyalty. In a word, cults. Rogan provides a sense of normalcy to people who have otherwise lost their own, and he does it by simply appearing as a vicarious friendship. But that friendship has the hierarchy of a high school clique, and no one wants to be the one who calls it out and loses their identity within it. But can the people within it really say they have their own? In the simplest and most blunt terms, the people who go to Rogan, or Hassan, or Asmongold, or Mike from PA, or the Young Turks, or Kyle Kulinski aren't looking for the news. They're looking for people who can put words to what they're feeling, and instead they're getting positive reinforcement. It becomes a codependent relationship where they as influencers can make money, and you as an audience can feel a sense of belonging so long as you hold on to those undefined anxieties. What their audiences really need is therapy, not because there's something wrong, but because there's something there to be understood. Rogan claims his podcast is more authentic than regular talk shows, but what is the value of authenticity as a descriptor besides the assumed standard that you believe what you're saying?
Spurious, not genuine, and it's worth fuck all.
There can be authenticity in performance. There can be authenticity in repetition. There can be authenticity in structure. All of these things are tools for communication, not reflections of character. A play performed 100 times conveys the same message, but because the audience is constantly changing, the message is always received as new. And because the performance is repeated, there's a singular, clear, and efficient purpose. Politicians do not inherently lie because they give a standard speech or they signal vague ideas of what is good or bad. They recognize the responsibility of speaking to millions of people at once requires connecting with as many people as possible as closely as they can. They are trying to hit the center of a Venn diagram with millions of circles. When it only seems like they are partially speaking to you, consider that the rest of what they are saying is to everyone else, and whether your circle would have greater overlap with them. The result of seeking authenticity has been at the expense of genuine knowledge. We might feel unincluded or alienated by expertise, but that doesn't make it inauthentic. The validity of expertise is not defined by how we choose to apply it to our own lives. A mask during COVID is only an attack on freedom if your concept of freedom starts at your ears and ends at your mouth. If you can recognize that freedom extends beyond yourself, then you know that mitigation is not an attack on freedom. The attack on freedom is the disease. And just because systems you previously hadn't interacted with are suddenly operating within your sight, that doesn't mean their work prior was unimportant. The best government operations are the ones that can provide seamless positive results in your life. Food inspections, GPS satellite, interstate travel, thousands of people working in concert so that you can go to a grocery store and the most that gets in your way is a traffic light. You can explain that by effective governance, or you can decide that there must must be a conspiracy. But then conspiracy is no longer an explanation, it's just a way to justify how you feel in a way that makes you feel better. Rogan is so painfully focused on COVID now, in 2026, because that was the one time in his life where the government actually told him no.
No one says no to me!
And because of that, he has to figure out a way to call it unjustified, because to him, there is no justification ever. The only explanation is conspiracy, when the truth is that the government's ability to enforce isn't inherently built out of tyrannical power. It's built out of intercession between you and the forces that don't recognize your autonomy. Disease, accidents, crime are all forces that would act upon you without regard, but the government steps in and acts instead in a way that is considerably more gentle to reduce the overall impact. But that requires shared responsibility, and that's the heart of it. Through Rogan's persistent denial, he does not want to be responsible for his actions.
I'm not to blame.
He's not just a rebel without a cause. He's a rebel without a force to rebel against. He's got the most powerful megaphone in the world and millions of dollars for using it, telling everyone what the government is supposedly doing, and he has faced no direct repercussions for it. In fact, the government he decries has rewarded him numerous times. And yet, he and his guests will snicker like they're in on some exclusive secret shared between them and everyone on Earth.
What's going on? Why don't they like it? We spent $250 million on this.
He is a member of his own cult, social media writes the Bible, and his show subs in a new leader each week, all seeking to take advantage of that influence. And despite all that, I don't think Rogan is dumb. Denial is only possible where you understand your circumstances on some level and refuse to confront them. Really, the Joe Rogan experience is not wanting to be Joe Rogan.